What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti, and I just saw myself ripping by. Hold on. I'm I haven't watched this a ton. I watched a little bit of the replay last night. Hey, there it was. Whee! There it is. Ready? Let's get it. Oh, wait, hold on. There it is. Oh, I missed it again. Hold on. Let's catch the little QAV Cine 25. There he is, up in the corner. See him? Whee! There he goes. I don't know, man. It's the funniest thing to me to see the little chase rig get caught on the static cameras. So that was the gig that I had yesterday. In Anniston, Alabama, the Sunny King Criterium Cycling Race. Criterium Cycling Race is basically the NASCAR of cycle racing. Instead of point A to point B, it's a circuit. Usually it's like, you know, a bunch of city blocks. Sometimes that just basically like an oval or rectangle. Sometimes they'll do like an L shape, but yeah, it really focuses on the strategy and like the teamwork of cycle racing, rather than, you know, point A to point B, which is like scenery, you know, like like I think one of the cool things about cycling is that you can cover a bunch of ground and like see cool scenery and whatnot. But the Criterium series really focuses on like the racing side of things, and man, it is super action packed. Like I had so this event a year ago, I had really no interest whatsoever in cycle racing until this event. I got hired for this event, and like within a couple of hours being there, I was like, this is really cool. Like the people are really cool. The cyclers are amazing. Yeah, the racing is really tight and really action packed. So I was absolutely thrilled to do another ACC event yesterday. We're going to talk more about it, but I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an explanation as to what the hell you were just looking at. Huge shout out to P. Richard Scott, my buddy Patrick here locally, who came out to be my visual observer and battery wrangler. I could not have stayed up in the air anywhere near as much or done anywhere near as good of a job without him. He was super helpful. Such a great friend and just an awesome person. So yeah, huge shout out to him for riding out with me. Great company, great conversation, great laughs. Yesterday was an awesome day. Welcome to Sunday Q&A, workbench things, different nonsense. We're gonna be talking about Bluejay. I've had two rigs which have had serious problems on Bluejay 0.17, 0.18, and 0.19, which are the only currently available versions of Bluejay in escconfigurator.com. But there is a way to get Bluejay 0.16, which I have not had any issues with. So we're going to be going over the problems with 0.17, 8, and 9. We're going to go over how to backdate to 0.16 and why you should. And we're even going to see if we can fix a third rig that I suspect is having issues with. It's currently on Bluejay 0.19, and I'm willing to bet you that when I put it back onto 0.16, it fixes it. So yeah, we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic. It's the tiny whoop that's on the T-Motor AIO, and I was very confused. T-Motor makes really good electronics. T-Motor works with companies that make really good electronics. I don't think they actually make any of them in-house. I could be wrong, but I suspect that they do not. But yeah, T-Motor's electronics have been really, really good, especially their like Pro line, their more expensive line of electronics, which I'm 99% sure are made by Acon, which is kind of why they're bulletproof. And so yeah, when I installed the first of these T-Motor AIOs, I was shocked that I was having so many problems with it. And then I contacted T-Motor. I said, hey, what the hell's going on here? And they said, we're so sorry, we're going to just send you another one. And I was like, wow, okay. And they sent me another one, and it had all the same problems. So, yeah, the problems are either like hardware-based, or I have a feeling they're software-based. So, yeah, like my apologies to T-Motor, but, I mean, I think they shipped these with Bluejay, with the problems. So, yeah, if backdating this to Bluejay 0.16 fixes the issues, I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, I figured it out. You are going to want to backdate all of your AIOs to 0.16 because other people are going to have the problems. So yeah, there's that. We're going to go through that. Does anybody... I do not have one of these T-Motor AIOs that's fresh out of the box to confirm what version of Bluejay it comes with. Do any of you beautiful people in chat have one of these T-Motor? This is the 5 amp with ELRS built in and the VTX built in. Yeah, I would love it if somebody out there had one of these AIOs and could plug it into ESC Configurator and look at what version of Bluejay is on it to confirm that it's not 0.16. Because there's a chance that as soon as I took this out of the box, and I can probably... Hey, Squeaky FPV, thank you, dude. He says, yep, it comes with 0.18. Okay, awesome. I thought so. What I was about to say is there's a chance that I took both of these out of the box and immediately went to ESC Configurator and updated them to 0.19. I could literally watch my live stream and see if I did that, but Squeaky FPV confirms that it comes with 0.18. So yeah, we're gonna backdate this to 0.16 today, see if it fixes the issue. The issue that, and the reason that I think this is gonna fix it is that the issue with this AIO that I've been having with the arm drops when you really push it hard into roll and yaw maneuvers is the exact same problem that I have had with both of the other rigs that backdating them to 0.106 fixed. So pretty sure that that's the issue. You know, T-Motor makes good stuff. It's on 0.18, and I guess those are the two reasons. And this is also a Q&A live stream, as they all are. The most value that, in my opinion, I can kind of give you beautiful people is answering any and all questions that you've got. I've been around for almost 7 years in FPV, and I've been really like super motivated the entire time to learn as much as possible and figure out how to make micros fly better. And in order to make, you know, quads fly better, you have to kind of be on the technical side of things. I'm nowhere near as technical as Joshua Bardwell, but I kind of I like to kind of think of myself as like FPV 102 in a way. Like, I don't really focus on the best way to kind of get you up in the air and the best gear to kind of start off with. I focus on folks that have been around for a little while and are looking for, are looking to go from good to great, or, you know, looking to get better. And so, yeah, I focus on like refining FPV, how to take a bind and fly and make it fly, you know, make it perform better, and or how to do a scratch build with the best possible parts so that A, it flies as good as it can, but even more importantly, B, it's catered to your specific needs. That's kind of the only reason to custom build, right? Like, custom building is a pain. It takes a lot of time, but the end result should be something that is specifically designed to work the best in your exact scenario. Where you fly, how you crash, how often you crash, all these different things, right? That's kind of the point of custom building. You can have a rig that's exactly strong enough for how hard and often and what you crash into, so that it's as light as possible, and lightweight flies better, as we all know. And, you know, it has the parts and pieces that are not overly expensive, right? Like, it's pointless to build something that costs a ton of money if you're never going to get any value out of that. And a whole bunch of other kind of reasons that, yeah, we custom build. So that's sort of what I do. I am completely crowdfunded by you beautiful people over on CiottiFPV.com. There are a million different ways that you can support me. This is a link to the YouTube channel here with my little streaming schedule. As it says, Patreon helps me out the most. Patreon is the closest thing that I have to a paycheck. It's also the thing that gives you the most benefit for your money. You're going to get access to a YouTube playlist here with almost 90 unreleased edits, half-done edits, sketchy flying I don't want to be public, Patreon-only live streams that I've done, me playing video games, just all kinds of shit that I don't necessarily want to be public on my YouTube channel, clogging up space. You're going to get access, full access to the Discord channel, where you can hang out in chat channels like Livestream Live, which I always have up during the live streams themselves. And you're going to get access to the Stick End Fund, where you can rent from me a box with every single stick end that's in stock on the internet, and then you can put them on your transmitter and actually see if you're going to like them. It's, you know, all fine and dandy to look at a picture of a stick end and be like, ooh, that looks like I would like it, but then you get it, and, like, your brain is going to do the placebo-ish thing, and it's going to say, no, I like these. I just spent $30 on them. I definitely like them. I definitely like them. They definitely don't hurt my thumbs and hit the corners of my transmitter radio travel so that I can't put it all the way into the diagonals. But then eventually, that you'll get the buyer's remorse and you'll be like, shit, I wasted $30. So don't waste $30 on a set of stick ends that don't work for you. Rent a box of them out from me and try them all. There's a couple of Facebook groups. One of them's for selling stuff. One of them's for just hanging out. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some other stuff. Those are all the perks of Patreon. You can join my Patreon for as little as $3 a month. That's only 10 cents a day. If you're into FPV, I know you got an extra 10 cents a day. Help a brother out. Let me keep doing this full time, and I'll keep bringing you good content that saves you some money. Usually, when I, have a product that I say is awful, don't buy it. That could save you 50, 60 bucks. Christ, could save you 100 bucks if it's an AIO or an ESC or Christ, a flight controller. God, some of the flight controllers now are $100. What on earth? I miss the days of $30 flight controllers and $40 ESCs. But hey, pandemic F the entire world up, so here we are. Makes joining my Patreon that much more important. Over on Etsy, I have some stickers and some random hardware that might help you out during your next build. Over on Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me. We can work on flight instruction, tuning, build planning, or just fire questions off. Like, it's your time. You're paying for my time. Flight instruction, tuning, and build planning are three of the things that I think are the most valuable. But I mean, yeah, it's your time. You take that time up however you'd like. You're accessing 7 years of FPV knowledge, and that's where sort of the value is with Fiverr. Over on Teespring, I got some really fun shirts and other random apparel items. If you want to do a super chat, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%, there's a PayPal button here. If you do PayPal me, do me a favor, in the chat, say, at CiottiFPV, check your PayPal, because I want to give you a shout out. I really do appreciate the support. Speaking of, okay, that's not at all what I wanted to happen. Anything interesting? Don't bother rewinding. There's nothing interesting there. There's that's an email about Aniston, Sunny King Criterium, and then new patrons. The reason I was opening my email is that I want to give shout outs to a couple of patrons that have supported me and joined while I've been off air. So let me just really quickly, Jesus, I got a ton of emails today. Adam Weston, welcome to the Gangly Gang. Thank you for joining the Patreon page. Is it a page? I guess it's a page. Don E, welcome to the gangliest of gangs. Thank you, brother, for your support. I think there was one or two more. FPV Geek, Ron DeLeos. FPV Geek created the, I don't have it handy, but the switch that sits on the side of your Fat Sharks that you OG folks will know exactly what I'm talking about. And the manufacturing process of that switch was a complete nightmare for Ron, and it really sucked. Like, because Ron was like super into FPV, and then getting this switch made turned into like a year-long nightmare, and rightfully so. At the end of that, once it was finally produced and out there, he took a big break from FPV, and like, I don't blame him at all. I was a little bit involved in that process because I was the one that kind of first noticed the problem that led to the nightmare with the switch. Had to do with the barrel connector and the manufacturer. It's kind of screwing him over. And so yeah, I was sort of intimately involved in that, unfortunately, and it was just like heartbreaking to watch it all go down. Ron was like really invested money-wise and time-wise. So I'm thrilled that he's kind of coming back into FPV because he's an awesome dude. And so yeah, that is fantastic. And I'm glad to have him as a patron. Welcome to the gangliest of gangs, Ron. And then I think there was one more, maybe not. right, I think I'm caught up. You! I don't know. And then look at all these affiliate links. Affiliate links are a completely free way to help people that create content continue to create content. If you like watching things for free, get used to using affiliate links because it's the easiest way that you can help folks out. All you have to do is click on these affiliate links at any point before you check out from a website. It drops that person's affiliate code into your shopping cart, and then they get a small percentage of your order total. A lot of folks have changed their bookmarks to these websites over to my affiliate links. Right-click, copy link address, and just swap out your bookmark. If you don't use bookmarks like me, if you just go up to the URL bar and type like AMA for Amazon, what you can do is if you type AMA and it just predicts regular old Amazon.com, you can scroll over to the right here and click the little X, and that will like remove, as it says there, it'll remove that suggestion. And so you remove all of your AMA Amazon suggestions, and then you just come in here and you click my Amazon affiliate link a bunch of times, and then you're telling your browser, hey, that's the link that I want to go to on Amazon all the time, so that the next time you type AMA, it suggests my affiliate link. And you can do that with all of these, and that way you don't have to think about coming to my website every time you're checking out, or you just don't have to think about it, right? You can just go to a website and it'll immediately drop the affiliate link in there, and then free money will come my way, and I will use that money to continue doing these live streams and bringing you the content that in theory you like if you're looking at my big dumb face right now. I have affiliate links to Weebleed FPV, Newbie Drone, FPV Cycle, Amazon, Get FPV, Oh My Gods, not Oh My Gods, just singular, Oh My God, Hdzero, Flywoo, Emacs, Banggood, Camera Butter, AliExpress, and then there's a whole bunch of random stuff down the bottom here that you might find interesting. All right, so now that I've sold you some car insurance, let's dive into the chat. If you want to talk directly to me in the chat, you can either do a super chat or you can just type CiottiFPV. By typing CiottiFPV, spelling it right, and not putting a space in between my last name and FPV, it'll light up an orange like this. If you'd like, you can put an @ in front of it like that, but you don't have to. You can do that with each other, too. If you type into the chat here, Ram space Donko, for him, it will light up an orange, and he'll know that you're talking directly to him. That's how YouTube works. Sorry to insult your intelligence if you already knew how YouTube works. The folks that have tagged me so far, Apache, well, actually, in the chat, Justin Waller was first, Apache Smoke Wooden Sniper was next, Nani FPV, Juicy FPV, Rafa Tattoo, Kevin Sumner, Ethan, Squeaky, Brandon, Ram Donko, Riot 9, Ethan W, Robert Rosser, 16-Bit, Bob Bruce, Bitterroot, Espander, Twisted Skies, and Eric Mo. If you want me to say your name, either tag me or come in early and say anything, and I'll read your little name off in the chat. Apache Smoke One and Cyber tagged me and said, "Good evening. How are you doing on this? How are you doing today?" And hello, Gangly Gang. How is everybody doing this sunny Sunday? Nani FPV says, "What's up, Gangly Gang? What's up, CiottiFPV? I just finished my Hdzero Fractal build this morning. Very cool. Got to go and get some better screws for the frame as the stack is too tall for what I got." So that is one of the things that I actually have on my Etsy store. I have a whole bunch of M2 hardware. I actually have a whole bunch of M3, so here's some of the M2 hardware. I actually have a whole bunch of M3 hardware as well. I just haven't put it up there yet. So if there's, like, if you need M3 by 14 screws, let me know. I have pretty much all the sizes. M3 by 7, M3 by 9, M3 by 20. M3 by 9 is actually a kind of a hard to find size. I've only ever been able to find it included with T-Motor motors, actually. For the last year, T-Motor ships M3 by 9 screws with their motors. Pretty cool. And I've bought so many T-Motor motors that I have enough extra of those that, yeah, I can sell you guys some. So if there's any specifically lengthed hardware that you need, let me know. And you don't have to go through Etsy. You can just message me and say, like, hey, do you have this? And if I do, I'll give you a price. It's usually going to be a couple bucks more than shipping. And, yeah, hook you up. I also have a whole bunch of stickers if you want to support the madness. There's a bunch of stickers over on the Etsy store. As with anything, like, if you just want to message me, I will, yeah, you don't have to go through Etsy. Etsy is actually not great at communicating with me, so sometimes I'll miss an Etsy order just because, yeah, their messenger is not great. So yeah, if you ever haven't heard from me, just message me on like Instagram or Facebook, and I will hook you up. Nani, welcome to custom building. Your custom builds somehow always need the exact wrong length of screw that you never have and is hard to find. I actually just ran into that a couple of days ago and cooked a motor and an arm because the screws that came with the thing were a little bit too long, and I actually had to order M2x9 screws. I did not have any M2x9 hardware. It's just like a random weird size. So yeah, I had to order that off Amazon. It should be here today, actually. Brandon Woodford says, good evening, CiottiFPV. I have gone back to 0.16 on everything that has Bluejay. Brandon, did you do that because we've been kind of talking about this over the last few live streams, or did you also run into problems with 0.178 and 9? Bob Bruce says, how's everybody doing? 661 says, I have 0.19 on probably 15 quads and no problems yet. I guess it's just certain ESCs. It is indeed. I have 0.19 on a whole bunch of rigs as well, and it was completely fine for the longest time. And then in the last 2 months, it's been a little bit of a nightmare. And one of the rigs that it was a problem, well, we're going to talk more about it. I'm going to take you through the whole story and give you full context in a little bit. Let me get caught up on chat first, though. But yeah, it's definitely not everything. And I'm going to explain the problems that I've been experiencing so that you can hopefully look out for those problems. And if you're having those issues, backdate. All that being said, I'm sure there are, but I don't really see anything that 0.178 or 9 do better than 0.16. Like 0.16 supports RPM filtering. It supports 24, 48, or 96K. And those are really the two big things about Bluejay. And it makes more power than BL Heli for some strange reason. So yeah, they're really, like I said, I'm sure that there are benefits to 0.189 or 0.178 and 9, because why else would they update it? But I just don't think that those benefits are, I don't notice any of those benefits, so they're subtle, so kind of why bother? Like, why open yourself up to problems? Why not just use 0.16? And I'm going to show you how to do that. It's a little bit of a pain, admittedly, to backdate to 1.6, but you could certainly make the argument that why not just put everything back onto 0.16? If you're not having any problems with 0.19, though, and the problem is pretty obvious, like the rig falls out of the air, you're probably fine. I'm not going to backdate all of my stuff. I have a bunch of rigs that have been completely fine on 0.18 and 0.19. And so, yeah, like, whatever. But if those rigs desync even once, it's over. They're going back to 0.16 to see if that hopefully helps it. So, and you know, now that I say that and think about those other rigs, there have been some desyncs. Son of a bitch. It's the ripsqueaks that are all on, are my main rigs that are on 0.18 and 0.19. And I have swapped a couple of ESCs out because I've blamed the ESCs for the little desyncs that have been happening. Unbelievable. Okay. Yeah, I don't know if we'll do it today, but I will be pulling those ripsqueaks into ESC Configurator to take a look at what version is on them. On them, the desyncs are very rare, but they're there, and a rig just dropping an arm for like a half a second can very easily lead to a rig that's buried up in a tree forever. So yeah, just kind of not worth it sort of thing, right? God damn it. I've spent a bunch of it's swapping an ESC takes a lot of time, you know, like you have to rip the entire rig apart. Um, and you know, on the one that's on the Skystar or whatever they are, 1404s, I swapped the ESC, and then it still did it with the new ESC, and I had swapped an ESC on the other rig, and I just thought that I basically thought that I was losing my mind. I was like, oh, I must not have swapped the ESC on this one because I remembered swapping it on the other one. But when I think back, I remember being like, I thought I swapped the ESC on this. Why is this still happening? Okay. Maybe go back to 0.16 on everything. I don't know. It was very intermittent. It's for whatever reason on these guys, it's super intermittent. Like it would happen once every 2 or 3 batteries, but it happening even once is like no good. You know, like desyncs are nasty and they're scary, and the worst thing about desyncs, in my opinion, for me, is that it takes away your confidence in that rig. And then you start to like, oh God, and you back off and you're like, okay, I won't, fling it up over that massive tree. I'll just like be cool. I won't fly it out over the water. I'll just chill out with it, right? And like that sucks. Like having confidence in your rigs is really important. Like having rigs that have not desynced or fallen out of the air in the last 100 batteries makes you fly them completely different. Like you're not even flying it like as a quad, you're just inside of it and you're just like full confidence, like I can go wherever I want. That's one of the things that makes really good pilots as good as they are. They have rigs that are very solid and very reliable, and they're not thinking like, oh shit, what if it desyncs right now when I'm over this roof where there's no access and the rig will be gone forever, right? Like I don't care how much money you've got, you don't want to lose a rig, especially custom built rigs, because it's not about the money. It's about the 8 hours that it took to get it set up and dialed in and built and tuned and all that stuff. So yeah, it's a really, really big deal. Having reliable rigs is a super, super, super big deal. Ramdongo says, nice gig, good job. Thank you, brother. Weebleed says, hello, gangly gang. Happy Sunday. What's brewing today? All kinds of things, Zotek. Shout out to Weebleed FPV for having high KV 0702 motors in and just being an awesome shop that has supported me a ton. Our Tiny Whoop and Toothpick giveaway this last Monday was a Weebleed sponsored giveaway. So yeah, shout out to them. As always, they've been a huge supporter. And they have an incredible selection and a great website, and you guys know that. Affiliate link over on CiottiFPV.com. Kevin Sumner says, did you compensate Mr. Scott with many beers post-production? You know, I didn't, because like it was a long day and we were just desperate to get home. We did stop at Five Guys, and I paid $48 for 2 burgers and fries and drinks. Jesus Christ. But we were like, we like kind of scarfed it down and just boogied. We didn't get home. I didn't get home until like 1:30 in the morning, and we'd been going all day. And I mean, yeah, we were exhausted. I got up yesterday at like 8, I think. And yeah, I didn't get home and just like got right in the car and started driving. So yeah, it was a long day yesterday. And like we looked in a couple of bars in Anniston, and we were just like, my favorite moment, like, so Anniston is this like sleepy little town in Alabama. It's 2.5 hours from here, and Patrick like looked up on Google like what to do in Anniston, Alabama, and the first search result was an advertisement for a bus company to leave Anniston. So it was like, What is there to do in Anniston, Alabama? Leave. Like it's just, yeah, it's not a bad town, but it's just, I don't know, it's just a little town in Alabama, and there's, you know, Confederate flags and stuff like that. So it was just like, you know, let's get the hell out of here. Also, like when I wrap with FPV stuff, like I pack my shit in my bag and like I'm good to go in like 10 minutes, right? Well, everybody else in the truck is like they have like a couple hours of work to do. Like they're pulling wires, they're breaking everything down, they're doing edits to you know, like promo edits and whatnot with the footage from the event. So like hanging out with them, and those guys are awesome, and I love hanging out with them, but like they're not ready to go get a drink 10 minutes afterwards like I am. I gotta stick around for like an hour for them to finish up before we can go out, and it was just late, and we had a long drive. They're all from around the country, so they were all you know, staying in hotels there, so for them it's fine, they just walk to their hotel or whatever. But yeah, for Patrick and I, it was like, let's just get the hell out of here. Mav Who says my camera wire got cut by the props on my Cinelog 35 Performance. Yeah, I think that's happened to all of us at some point. It sucks. That is one of the reasons that I am so crazy about wire management. On any one of my builds, I will spend probably at least an hour total during the building process, just kind of looking at how the wires are running and figuring out the best possible way to run those wires so that they won't end up out in the props. So yeah, that's a thing for sure that's bitten most of us, Mavhu. It sucks. Hopefully you didn't lose the rig. You know, some things we have to learn the hard way. There's your hard way of learning that. Hopefully in the future it'll never happen again, because every time you're building a rig or just you have a rig opened up, you'll have that in the back of your mind of like, hey, look at the wiring. Can we improve the wiring on this to get them tucked in? One of the things that does help a lot is I'll try to run as many wires as I can underneath the ESC. That's a really nice way to just control those wires to keep them from going out the sides of the rig. But every build, every frame is completely different when it comes to that. If you've got like holes in your base plate, you can just loop like a little zip tie up through those holes and then run a bunch of the wires through that zip tie and crank it down to kind of hold those in place. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. Just having that in your head, though, that's the thing. That is the thing that's going to prevent it from happening again, right? The fact that this happened once, that's the lesson. That's the hard lesson. So in the future, you should be good to go. Just, yeah, don't ignore it. What I want you guys to really, what I want to really drill into your guys' heads is that, like, when every single time something like that happens, don't ignore it. Like, don't blame anyone. Don't blame the manufacturer. Don't, like, that doesn't help, right? Like, who cares? Just fix it and have that stick in your head, right? That's how you become a really good builder. That's how you end up with rigs that are bulletproof, is by, like, looking at every single failure as an opportunity to improve the build or your knowledge or whatever. So stop blaming stuff. Stop bitching on Facebook about stuff. Like, just fix things and just get better and, like, kind of take ownership, I guess, of those failures and look at them as opportunities to get better, right? Like, those of us that have been in the game for a long time have had hundreds of those failures, and if we learn from them, then we improve. If we blame and you know, let our ego get in the way, then we don't improve, and what's the point? You know, that's the fail there, is not improving from the fails. Says up on my board here, failure is the two things, but failure is the beginning of the road, and that's just like a kind of like a personal thing for this FPV journey. But yeah, the other thing is, like, you only learn when you fail. When you get things right, you don't learn anything. When you get things wrong, you got something wrong. How can we improve it, right? So just keep that in your head always, and make mistakes. Like, just don't be afraid to make mistakes. Try to limit it, right? But you got to screw up in order to get better. So don't be so hard on yourself. Ethan W says, CiottiFPV in chat, have you had any problem with Caddx cameras having their UV filters fall off and then bounce around in the camera case? It happened with every Caddx camera I've had. Ethan, I have not had that experience, mainly because I don't use Caddx cameras. And the reason that I don't use Caddx cameras is because RunCam and Foxeer cameras just have seemingly much better quality control and much less complaints of things like that happening. And when you look at the pricing of the cameras, that also becomes kind of obvious, right? Like in FPV, none of these companies have parking lots that are filled with Ferraris, right? Like they're like RunCam selling their cameras for a little bit more than Caddx does not result in everyone at RunCam making more money. RunCam cameras have better components, better construction, better quality control, and that costs a little bit more money. Almost across the board in FPV, you get what you pay for. There will be fringe cases here and there where that's not true, but 99% of the time, I would say, you get what you pay for. And yeah, Caddx cameras are the least expensive cameras. They do have some cameras that are different enough from the offerings from Foxeer and RunCam that they're like really interesting, but with that comes the potential for failure. So yeah, I part of my solution is to stop buying Caddx cameras. But I think the real answer is just understand that with Caddx, you're getting less quality control. Take the money that you saved and buy a second camera so that you have a replacement when the original one fails. Or just stop buying Caddx cameras. That was my way to solve that issue. Mavhu says, I have a Cylinolog 35 with F722 45 amp AIO and the camera wire cut in half. I soldered a new one, but the solder on my ground pad for the camera is dead. Can I solder on a different ground pad on the flight controller? Absolutely. Ground pads, every single ground pad is connected to the main layer of copper in the PCB that is commonly referred to as the ground plane. So yeah, every ground pad is totally fine, but you've actually got an opportunity to make it better if it's analog. If it's not analog, this doesn't matter. But if it is analog, the best way to have the cleanest possible video is to actually piggyback your camera ground wire on top of your VTX ground wire on the same pad. So yeah, if it's an analog system, you can literally make it less susceptible to noise by doing that. So try to find whatever pad, whatever the ground wire from your VTX is connected to, and piggyback your camera ground wire onto that pad, and you will have improved your Cylinolog 35. Michael Blade says, happy Sunday fun day, CiottiFPV. Thank you, brother. You too. Kevin Sumner dropping the CiottiFPV.com link. Thank you, dude. YouTube just did the thing. Scrolling back up. Try to find my place here. Gem Fan Hobbies in the house. What's up, Mike? How are you, man? Mike says, when you wait 1,000 years for Ciotti to text you, do I owe you a text back, Mike? I'm sorry, dude. I mean, if it's 1,000 years, I'm gonna have to scroll pretty far down. I'm usually pretty good about texting people back. I don't see it, and I'm not just gonna sit here on live stream looking for it. Can you do me a favor and just message me again real quick? Sorry, dude. I apologize. Sometimes stuff just gets buried, and then the notifications don't really help because they pile up. My apologies. Rockcrawler says, hey, CiottiFPV and everyone. Kevin Sumner says, CiottiFPV and Gangle Gang, I lucked into a... Hey, thank you for reminding me of this, Kevin. Yeah, Kevin Sumner has a platinum pass with 2 beds for Rampage. And so, yeah, anybody interested in going to... I think that Rampage is sold out now. So, yeah, if you want to go to Rampage... hit up Kevin Sumner, and you can maybe split the Platinum Pass with him and check out what we got going on at Micro Mayhem. There's going to be drift cars at Rampage, yo. If you have the budget, come to Rampage. It's going to be nutso. And Micro Mayhem is going to be pretty cool, too. Micro Mayhem is going to be very tiny whoop heavy this time. So 3-inch rigs are going to be really tough. It's a much smaller space with a lot more little tiny obstacles. So it's going to be tiny whoop like 65, 75, and I think that's about it realistically in this spot. We'll see, but yeah. So get those Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoops built, and we'll have a blast. Athix says, hey, Frank Nicholas dropping the CiottiFPV.com link as well. Thank you, dude. Athix says, this will be a 0.16 stream now. Scroll. Okay, good to go. Caught up. Don't mind me. I'm just getting... I actually have another gig tonight. Little quick 1 hour music video gig. So I'm getting some... I'm getting rigs configured for it here. So don't mind my screwing things in on the desk. Just out of camera shot. I'm just swapping GoPro holders on a Cinesplorer here. So let's talk about Bluejay, the main kind of topic of this live stream. First and foremost, Bluejay is fantastic, and it is hands down the best BL Heli S substitute. It makes more power than BL Heli S. It supports RPM filtering, which BL Heli S does. It's free, unlike JESC, and it gives you more PWM options. You've got 24, 48, or 96 available, which is awesome. I've been a big proponent of Bluejay from very early on. JESC was great, but it was kind of a pain in the ass to figure out how to get the licensing working, and it just wasn't very user friendly, and you had to pay for it, right? Which nobody ever likes, because we're so used to open source stuff, right? Because of Betaflight, and BL Heli S and BL Heli 32. So yeah, I've been a big proponent with Bluejay from the start, and I still am. Bluejay 0.16 is wonderful, and if you have a BL Heli S ESC, I don't see a single reason to not put it on the Bluejay 1.6. I'm going to show you how to do that in a little bit when we backdate this ESC. But I just wanted to start at the beginning there. And Bluejay is an open source project, and we are so lucky to have that. So yeah, Bluejay devs, I love you. You know, we got, as content creators, we got to get a little clickbaity, at least a little clickbaity with our stream titles, to get people to watch. But yeah, this is in no way me bashing on Bluejay. They did something for us for free. So, you know, if it doesn't work absolutely perfectly, it's completely unfair to go, you suck, fuck you, right? So this is not me doing that. The story begins with the 250. About a year ago, Ryan Harrell of Mini Quad Test Bench, super OG, brilliant frame designer, motor tester, ESC tester. He's the guy that knows more about ESCs than anybody in FPV. Brilliant dude. I met him at, Joshua had me out to a quad camp at his house a couple of years ago, and I met Ryan there. And yeah, we became like kind of instant friends and have been talking on Facebook and whatnot ever since. And so Acon contacted Ryan to ask for help with their AIOs. They were looking to start manufacturing AIOs. And so they sent Ryan a bunch of AIOs for testing, and then Ryan reached out to me. He's like, hey, I don't know anybody that bashes gear any harder than you. Can I send you a couple of these AIOs for testing? And he did. And so I put one of them in this 250 build and bashed the shit out of it, and it was great, and it held up, and it was awesome, and I gave him some feedback. He sent me a second one that I just kind of held on to. This was back in the days of Bluejay 0.16, and that's what this has on it. It has Bluejay 0.16. And in lots of testing and bashing and smashing and slamming and flamming, it was completely fine. Not a single hiccup. Everything was good to go. And now Acon sells this. This is the Acon 60 amp AIO. Came out a couple months ago. Thumbs up to Acon, by the way, for waiting and like taking all that feedback in on these things instead of just like rushing them out. That was kind of cool. So Acon ESC 60 amp on Bluejay 0.16, absolutely no problems in a whole bunch of different batteries. I held on to the other AIO. Eventually, I used it on this toothpick build about a month and a half ago. Sorry, not toothpick, Tooth Fairy. This is the FPV Cycle Tooth Fairy 2. Really, really interesting 3 or 3.5 or 5-inch frame here. It actually uses the Caddx. You kind of have to build this with a Caddx Vista because it uses the Caddx Vista in the rear of the frame as the standoffs. Bob saved weight on standoffs in the rear by literally using the Vista as a structural component. So you've got 4, in my case, red standoffs in the front here, 1 across the middle for the camera to firm up this camera cage, and that's it. There's no more standoffs in this. And it's stout, baby. This frame is very strong. And then Bob sells this frame with Cinewoop arms, which is what I have here. He's got 3-inch arms for it. He's got 3.5-inch arms for it, and he's got 5-inch arms for it. Really cool frame if you're on Vistas. If you're not on Vistas, I guess you could just put... I guess you could just put standoffs in the rear. No reason you wouldn't be able to. Yeah. It would be a waste of space, and it's just not really what it's for. But yeah, I guess you could. I guess you could just put a couple M2 standoffs where the Vista mounts are, and you'd be okay. But yeah, it's meant for Vista. So I had this on a 20x20 stack, but the deck height, the build height, is very very slammed. I think it's only 15 millimeters deck height. It might be 20, but I think it's 15. So it's tough. It's tough to squeeze a 20x20 stack in here. And I had this other Acon AIO, and I wanted to get this thing. The 20x20 stack that I had to put in, the only 20x20 ESC and flight controller that I had here that would fit in this deck height was like a little bit lower end, and I wanted to use this. I wanted for this to be a backup rig for the Miami Beach Criterium race, which is like a big deal, and so I didn't want to have like an ESC and a flight controller that were kind of cheap and not like, yeah, cheap. Let's just say cheap in there. So I took this Acon AIO and I put it into this thing 6 days before the event, 5 or 6 days before the event. Flashed it onto Bluejay 0.19, and the nightmare began. All kinds of weird stuff going on. A bunch of noise, and so at this point, I like as soon as it starts acting weird, I Discord messaged Brandon's Baked Beans with some logs and said like, hey man, anything jumping out at you that's kind of going on with this? And he was even having a hard time. And like the biggest thing that it was doing is it was 2 things. It was almost acting as if it didn't have motor braking. And when a rig doesn't have motor braking, it also kind of acts like anti-gravity is overreactive. Like you have your anti-gravity turned up too high. And at the end of movements, I think it didn't have motor braking because you, like, let's say you tell it to do this and then you center the stick, it kind of bobbles and wobbles, but it does it in a weird way where you've fired up, so you've put a left stick input and fired up these motors, and then you go to center, and when you go to center, the PID loop is going to break these motors. It should break these motors and fire these motors. Well, when you don't have that braking and you do this move, it comes across here and it only fires these motors up, and it has to fire them up harder because there's no braking on these two. So it gains elevation at the end of every movement. It'll kind of gain elevation. That is a dead giveaway that motor braking is not working, and and it does it in a way like our rigs do that anyway, but they do it very subtly. Without motor braking, it does it a lot more, and you can really like notice it, and it also has a hard time controlling. So like even though you'll start to turn up the P and the D gains, it'll still not be able to deal with the bounce back because it doesn't have the assistance of the motor braking, right? So that was the first thing. That was the first kind of giveaway that there was something drastically wrong here. Reinstalled Bluejay, reinstalled Betaflight, go through all the regular steps. Nothing's helping. The other thing that then pops up as I start playing around with it more is that it started to desync. And it was when I would ask it for a bunch of anything, roll, yaw, whatever, it would desync. And I actually broke. So I was trying to get this set up to run without the ducts. And I actually ended up breaking one or two of these Tooth Fairy Cinesplorer arms in that process of it desyncing and falling out of the air, which just slowed the whole process down. And all along the way, Brandon's like helping me out a ton to try to figure this out. Eventually, Brandon said, like, yo, do me a favor. I've heard some weirdness lately with Bluejay. I don't know if Brandon said put it back to 1.6 or if he said put it on to BL Heli. But he said, like, hey, Bluejay might be... And, like, up until this point, like, I was not blaming the... I was blaming, like, the frame. I'm blaming the ESC. I'm blaming the AIO. What was weird is, like, you know, I knew this AIO from that rig, and I'm like, oh, well, this AIO must have a blown-up gyro. I hadn't had any problems with Bluejay up to that point that I knew of. And so I just wasn't blaming it. So Brandon said that. I'm like, okay, cool. I flash it back to BL Heli. The damn thing's fine. And then I think maybe he mentioned it, or I don't know. Maybe I just tried Bluejay 0.16. No, actually, this was before. So I then it was on Bluejay 0.19. So then I went to BL Heli. And then I was like, well, I really want Bluejay because it's better than BL Heli. So I went from 0.19, I backdated to 0.18, still problems. Went down to 0.17, still problems. I couldn't go back to 0.16 because it's not available on escconfigurator.com. But it is available, and in a little bit, I'm going to show you how to get BL Heli 0.16 on your rig. So at that time, I just flashed it back to BL Heli just to get it working again, and that was it. And I went to the rig. I didn't need to fly it, so that was... no, I did. I got them some B-roll with it, and it was completely fine on BL Heli. So, Acon 60 amp AIO definitely has problems with Bluejay 0.19, 0.18, and 0.17. So there's one electronic component that at the moment seems to have issues with Bluejay. Fast forward to last week, and I built the AOS Cine 25. And I put a Mamba ESC, Mamba 30 amp BLHES ESC, and a Mamba flight controller into it. And I go out to test it on the very first battery with Bluejay 0.19 on it, and 20 seconds in, it desyncs, slams into the ground from like 3 feet, and breaks the AOS Cine 25 frame. We've talked a bunch over the last couple of weeks about how weak this and fragile this AOS Cine 25 frame is. I'm not going to dive back into that. There's previous live streams if you want to educate yourself on that. And we went through the same kind of thing of what the hell's going on with this? Why is it desyncing? And it ended up being the exact same problem. I backdated this thing to so now Brandon Woodford, I think it was, emailed me, yo, Bluejay 0.16 is still available. You got to go to this website and the so you can download the old school configurator, but the old configurator only goes up to 0.14. So the method that I'm going to show you is how you get 0.16. 0.14 is probably fine, but 0.16 isn't that bad to get. So backdated this to Bluejay 0.16, and the desync problems went away. And I put probably 40 or 50 batteries through this, and it did not miss us. It did not. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect all day yesterday. Really, really, really impressed. Another huge shout out to Brandon's Baked Beans for helping me get a couple of these things like really dialed in. Anniston is a very windy place. So I remember this from last year's event. So I was pretty obnoxious, like, Brandon, help, just sending him logs via Discord, like, hey man, if you have any time at all, can you please take a look at this? Brandon is the best black box tuner that I know. He charges $1 a minute, which is unbelievably fair. So if you want to like really dial your rigs in, he's going to be able to help you out with that with black box. I offer tuning through Fiverr, or just message me and we'll schedule it. I do not tune with black box. I tune with a sledgehammer, basically, of like, you know, are the motors hot? Is the rig oscillating? Is it making funny noises? I can get you a rough tune that's really decent, that gives you a bunch of headroom so that if you bend props or bang up motors, you're going to be fine. Brandon can take that tune, like if this is terrible and let's do it this way. If this is terrible and untuned and barely flyable, and this is absolutely perfect and as dialed in as possible, I'm going to be able to get you like probably around here. Brandon will be able to get you all the way over here. That's what Black Box does, right? Black Box gives you the data to be able to like absolutely dial in the specific filtering, and then to get it absolutely as flat as possible for the very specific situation that you've got, right? Your motors, your props, your frame, your ESC, your flight controller. So yeah, there's that. And I'm forever grateful for Brandon's help. He's just an awesome dude too. So yeah, Brandon's Baked Beans, you can find him over on my Discord, or he has an FPV Exchange, a little store on FPV Exchange, which is awesome. But he's always in the chat, so just message him. Brandon's Beans. Brandon Beans is his name here on YouTube. On my Discord, he's Brandon's Baked Beans. So yeah, he got me all dialed in, and yeah, the thing was just phenomenal all day yesterday. I got a little bit of Insta360 Go footage, which I actually haven't even looked at. I haven't even opened my bag yet. But yeah. So there's 2 rigs in a row that Bluejay 0.178 and 9 just don't work on. And so here's the deal. Here's what so I talked about what the dead giveaways with this one. The Acon AIO was real bad. Like you would just jam a bunch of roll in, and it would just fall out of the air. The Mamba stack on this AOS Cinna was not nearly as bad. The only way that it would desync is when I would give a hard coordinated roll and yaw movement to either side. That's not true. It was also doing it on front flips and back flips. But the similarities were when you would ask it for a lot, when you would really push it, and ask it to do a really hard back flip or a really hard front flip or a really hard yaw and roll movement, right? You're pushing the sticks really hard. You're asking the rig to really accelerate 2 motors and break 2 other motors down, whether that be on a back flip. It's going to fire the front motors really hard. It's going to break the rear motors really hard to initiate, and then it's going to do the opposite to stop the movement. On a hard roll and yaw maneuver, it's more cross motors for the yaw, right? So you want to do a 180. It's going to fire the 2 cross motors hard for yaw. It's going to break the 2 cross. That's going to get it to yaw. If you're adding roll in, it's going to mix, and it's going to fire these 2, break these 2. So it's going to kind of mix those commands all behind the scenes. The magic of Betaflight. So yeah, when you were pushing it really hard, doing a hard snap flip, and so here's the other thing, right? Most of these rigs are like squished X, or they have more weight on the pitch axis. It was fine on the roll axis. The roll axis is always the easier axis on quads. And the problem did not show up on roll with this rig. It did on the other rig. But on this rig, there was no problem on roll. The problem was on pitch, where it has to work harder to move all of this weight that's spread on the pitch axis. Also, there's less mechanical advantage on the pitch axis, right? Look how close these motors are together. Look how close the tips of these propellers are together here, right? And then look how close the tips of the propellers are on this axis. These motors are squished in like this. And then on this axis, these motors are pushed out. So the farther out the motors are, the more mechanical torque advantage they have. So the roll axis is pretty much always the easier axis. Even on a true X frame, you'll never have more weight spread out on the roll axis. You always have more weight on the pitch axis, and weight takes energy to get it moving, right? So yeah, it was much less to detect the issue on this, but since I just dealt with it a few weeks ago, I pretty quickly realized what it was, and figured it out. On this little analog cinematic drift chasing rig, this is the rig that I was flying on the RC drift edit that I just put up, which is like why is it the reason why is that I have more subscribers now than I ever have, because that's how it works. The little like quick-ish edit that I did with this stupid little thing, the worst quality edit that I have on my channel, is already up to 1,000 views, which is like more views than my edits usually get. So I thought that was kind of funny, like, oh yeah, great, the shittiest quality edit I have up is doing really well, but that's fine. So this is the rig flying in that. This has the T-Motor 5 amp AIO, and when I first built this rig live on stream, in the basement here, when I would push it really hard with roll and yaw, it would drop an arm and desync and fall out of the sky. And this is on Bluejay 0.19. So I'm now going to show you how to backdate to Bluejay 0.16 on this rig, and then we're going to fly it around the room, and we're going to see if it doesn't drop an arm. I bet you it doesn't. We're potentially, this is a very small sample size, but we're potentially seeing some 2 out of 3 of these rigs are possibly showing us which electronics have problems with the newer the newer versions of Bluejay. If it turns out to be that on this is a newer AIO. This Acon AIO is a newer AIO. What throws it off is this Mamba ESC. I must have bought this like 2 years ago. This is an older ESC. So that kind of throws a wrench into that. I have no clue what the problem is. So I can't even begin to tell you, like, look for ESCs that have this chip or anything like that. I have no clue. But if you have a rig with Bluejay 0.17, 8, or 9 installed on it, and it desyncs when you pitch it really hard, or when you pitch and roll it really hard, yaw and roll it really hard, when you really ask the rig to be really reactive and turn fast or flip fast or whatever, if you get a random desync every once in a while, that is the symptom that I've been seeing in potentially all 3 of these, definitely 2 of them. And that's when I would go back to 0.16, or just put everything back to 0.16. It's definitely not gyro related ATHIX, because it's happened on 2 completely different rigs, and gyro problems are different than this. Desyncs have nothing, and really, yeah, desyncs just have nothing to do with gyros. Gyro problems show up in a completely different way. So yeah. Here's how you put your rigs back onto Bluejay 0.16. You make a bookmark with this right here. So this is step 1. That link is now in chat. For folks that are not watching this live, there's the link. github.com/all that stuff. You go to this page, and version 0.16, and there are 1,442 assets, individual hex files. Each one of these has a specific letter and number designation to it. And you need to manually match this up with your specific ESC. And there is typically not documentation that will give you that. Every once in a while there is. I think Mamba actually calls it out on their documentation. But that's fine, because it's easy to figure this out. So you're going to open this page up in a tab and just leave it there for a minute. If you have documentation that tells you that your ESC uses AH25, then you're good to go. But we'll talk about that in a second. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to go to esc-configurator.com. And this is how you're going to figure out what version your I think it's the letters and numbers are referring to the ESC specific processor that's on board. So you're going to hook your quad up to USB and you're going to power it once you've got ESC configurator up. So we are plugged into USB, and now I'm going to plug a battery in, and here we go. We're going to come back to ESC configurator. Up in the top right corner, we're going to click connect. You're going to see this screen, and now you're going to click on the bottom right, read settings. And it's actually going to tell you right here. It goes by really quick, but it tells you right there what the version is. If you miss it, that's fine, because it also tells you right here. ESC1, and they'll all be the same, OH10. That's what you need to remember, OH10. You can now pull the battery power and unplug the rig, because you got a couple things you need to do. OH10, all right? Every ESC is going to be different. Every AIO is going to be different. Now you come in here, and you guessed it, you find OH10. So it's alphabetical, scroll all the way down. Here we go. And then they're in kind of order. They're in a weird order, but you'll find it. You'll be fine. I have faith in you. So here we go. OH10. There's three different ones. We've got OH1024, OH1048, OH1096. I probably don't need to tell you, but this is the 24K one, this is the 48K one, this is the 96K one. 96K can go to hell. It really sacrifices braking performance. So your flight performance is not going to be great, but your power is going to be great. This 96K is how you get the absolute most power out of your quad. So if you're building like a drag race quad that all that matters is raw horsepower, you want 96. For everything else, I don't really think you want 96, because by hurting the braking performance, that's going to hurt PID loop performance, and you're going to have a rig that basically bobbles around and just has bounce back forever. 48K is really the best middle ground, and it's what I run on most small rigs. It's going to give you more power than 24K, but slightly less braking performance. So if you're on 48K and you have like forever wobbles that you can't tune out with the PIDs, or if there's just bounce back that you can't tame, you want to drop down to 24K, because 24K gives you the best braking. I've heard that in a future Bluejay release, they're going to offer you high and low PWM. And that's going to allow you to do low PWM 24, high PWM 48 for the best braking performance and then the best high throttle performance. Or you could do 4896, but I would still recommend 24 to 48. Right now, 48 is our best bet, especially with tiny whoops. 48 makes significantly more power than 24. So for tiny whoops and other like micros, 48 is probably your best middle ground, unless, like I said a minute ago, if you've got like forever wobbles or bounce back that you can't tune out with the PIDs, then I would drop down to 24. But yeah, we're going to do 48. So you've found OH10, and now we've found 48. We're going to click it, and it's going to download it. And it's just a tiny little hex file. So we're going to pull that up in the Finder here. And just remember where it goes, because you're going to need it in a minute. Now you're going to go back to escconfigurator.com. You're going to plug your rig back in you're going to connect a battery to it again. And actually, hold on. Before I do that, I'm going to show you guys what happens when to tip me off of this behavior. Although I did put slightly lower kV motors on this to try to get a little bit more throttle resolution, because this is a chase specific rig. And I have not flown this freestyle yet, so there's a chance that it won't do it, but I bet you it still will. So let me just show you the behavior on this rig that is what a desync looks like when you push it, when you push a bunch of roll and yaw in all at once. And my gear is still packed, so give me 1 second. I gotta get my transmitter and my controller out of here. Come on, get over there. And I need my ELRS module as well. Okay. All right, cool. Here we go. Let's pop Crossfire out of here. Yesterday was yet another gig that I did not test the dual. Well, actually, on the AOS Cinna, I do not have a dual receiver set up. So, yeah, I still haven't tested the ELRS thing. Crossfire just works, and when I'm on set, like I'll try to sneak in a little bit of testing, but I'm there to work. So, yeah, I did not get to test ELRS head-to-head against Crossfire, but one of these days I will. On one of these gigs, Crossfire will fail-safe, and then I'll be like, okay, cool, let's try ELRS. I do fail-safe testing before the gig in a safe way. So yeah, at some point here I'll be able to test it, but for right now, yeah, Crossfire is still fine in most cases. Or if I'm at on site and there's a big scary cell phone tower that I think could be a problem, that's when I'll test it. Hold on 1 second. I need to do something real quick. Sorry guys. Hold on. I got this. Come on over here and come on, almost there. Here we go. And gotta get this and this and this. I got a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. Come on over here. A little bit of that, a little of this. Almost there. And yay! All right, cool. Just had to get that hooked up real quick here. All right, so here's the performance. Here's the problem. Here you go. Bluejay 0.19, and let me try to show you guys this real quick here. All right, so come on, ELRS, connect. Go ahead and connect now. You can go ahead and connect now, please. Oh, why is the module not turning on? What? Oh, there it goes. That's weird. This is why I don't like removing and replacing modules over and over again. All right, so if you come in here, let me see if I can get it to do it. So it's gonna be on really hard roll and yaws. There it is. So I obviously did not just, spiral that thing into the ground like that. That was an uncommanded. That's what it is when the rig, like, this is commanded because I'm moving the sticks. If it falls out of the air, that's uncommanded. I didn't command it to fall out of the air. So when I come over here and I go full throttle and then, see it? I go full throttle and then I jam. The stick movement that I'm doing is this. And this is just roll and yaw all the way into the plastic. And there it is again. So that's the behavior. That is a full-blown desync. And sometimes that is ESC hardware related. If the FETs on the ESC are starting to shit the bed, or if the FETs on the ESC have been damaged somehow, you were like turtle moding the shit out of it and they got really hot and they started to fail, that can cause that. And typically, it's a hardware problem. Like when a rig starts to do that, when you push a rig really hard into a movement and it falls out of the air like that, typically that's a sign that you need to start flying that rig more gentle, and as soon as you can, replace the ESC, or in this case, it would be replacing the AIO, which I tried. T-Motor sent me a new AIO, and it did the exact same thing. This is the replacement AIO. Let's see if it was a software problem all along. USB, battery, into ESC configurator. ESC-configurator.com. Here's the link in chat. We're going to go up here to connect. We're going to go down here to read settings. It's going to tell us here, OH10, trying to read. What's it doing? That's weird. All right, let's unplug it. Sometimes it acts weird. It says failed reading ESC1. So we're going to unplug USB, plug USB back in, unplug power, plug power back in. Come up here to connect. Go down here to read settings. What the hell's going on? It's not reading the ESCs. Worked a minute ago. It's because the transmitter is still on. There's something really weird. I don't understand it, but you got to make sure your transmitter is off. That's important. C-Mac called it. Thank you, dude. I don't understand that, but it absolutely... You saw it. You saw it. Transmitter has to be off. So now we're going to click disconnect. We're going to click connect, read settings, and now it'll be fine. Boom, 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 boom. OH10 Bluejay 0.19. All right, we want to flash all. So you're going to come down here to flash all ESCs. You can flash them individually, but don't. It's stupid. It's just a waste of time. Click flash all ESCs. Normally, what you would do is you would select Bluejay. You would always leave this alone. There's your OH10. You would select your version, right? And then you would select your PWM frequency. But none of these, as you can see, it doesn't go back to 0.16, and all three of these versions have problems. So there's this button here, Flash Local Firmware. Big, gigantic button. And you guessed it again, you're going to point that at the OH10 0.16 48 file that you downloaded a minute ago. Fire Mike with a $5 ESC, great. With a $5 super chat. Thank you, brother. He says, watching your stream got me into Whoops. Been loving my Mobula 7. Thank you. You're certainly welcome, brother. 661 says, what Whoop AIO is that using the OH10? This is the T-Motor 5 amp with the built-in ELRS and VTX. So you're going to come in here. You're going to go to your downloads folder or wherever the hell else it downloaded to. And you're going to find that file, which is OH10. And there it is. Take OH10, open it, and it's going to flash Bluejay 0.16 OH10 48K, which you'll see here in a second. That'll change to 0.16. And it's going to automatically flash all four of the ESCs. Bang, there it is, 0.16. Good to go. So that's it. You've now flashed Bluejay 0.16 to your first channel, your second channel, your third channel, and your fourth. And I'll bet you that this thing is fine now. Which is great. That's a really good thing, because this rig, it's fine because it's a chase rig, so I wasn't flying it hard, but it would be nice to be able to fly this rig hard, right? Like, having something that if you push it hard, it falls out of the air, that sucks. One thing that ESC Configurator does that I love is that it leaves all of these settings here alone. So it remembers all of these settings. It doesn't always remember the motor directions, I don't think. So if you had motor directions changed, it might screw those up. I'm going to assume that it remembered. I don't really know. Incidentally, here are the settings that I run. I turn on brake on stop. I turn the maximum braking strength for brake on stop all the way up as high as it'll go. I move the beep strength down a little bit just because that's the initial beeps. They don't really need to be very loud. On Tiny Whoops, I move the beacon strength up. This is your ESC beeper, and on Tiny Whoops, it's really quiet. I changed this beacon delay to 2 minutes. If you have the rig plugged in for 2 minutes and it doesn't get any input, it starts beeping to say like, hey, I'm about to melt, do something. Or if it's like stuck somewhere, it'll start beeping so you can find it. To help with desyncs, Brandon's Baked Beans suggests taking your ramp up RPM power protection down to 8x. I've done that before. I've not really seen much of a difference. He also recommends taking your motor timing down to medium. I've also tried that. I haven't really seen much of a difference. And that's it. I leave everything else alone. Those are a couple of subtle things. The main thing to help with desyncs, though, is dropping down to 0.16. I tried both of those tricks on 0.17, 8, and 9, and they had no effect. I mean, it didn't make the situation any better. They have an effect, but it didn't actually help it. So there we go. We're now on 0.16. We can disconnect, pull power. We'll throw the battery in the bay properly and see if it no longer falls out of the air. And if we've identified a third component that Bluejay 0.17, 8, and 9 don't work right on. Which, to be honest, I'm kind of hoping for, because I would love to message T-Motor and say, hey, I fixed your problem for you. Know what I mean? I'm going to use this same... No, I'm going to use a fresh battery, because I want as much chance to make this happen as possible. The more voltage you feed it, the harder it's going to be able to go into these movements, and the more likely it's going to be to fall out of the air. So, fresh battery. That's actually kind of a beat-up battery that I had on there a second ago, so we were stacking the deck for Bluejay 0.17, 8, and 9 to try to let them work properly. But they still didn't. They still fell out of the damn sky. So here we go. Let's see if this is a hardware problem or if it was a software problem all along, and I was wrong. But look, man, I'm very happy that I was wrong, because guess what? We fucking learned, yo. Can't always be right. Get that ego in check. It's important. That was weird. Sometimes tiny whoops do that, though. All right, let's see. It's fine. There you go, friends. I mean, let's keep pushing it, but... I mean, it absolutely... It was doing it to the right more than it was doing it to the left. Yep. You're welcome, T-Motor. Just let the community R&D all your problems. FPV 101. I mean, I am like throwing it so much harder than I was a minute ago. To the point where there's something rubbing on one of the props. So there you go. Cool. Well, hey, that's another woo! Oh! That's another good Tiny Whoop AIO. I was so sad that that the T-Motor AIO was no good, because I was really excited about it. I thought it was no good, but it's fine. It's totally fine. Let's push a little more. Let's go. I'll go upstairs. I don't know what the hell's rubbing. Something's rubbing on the prop guard, but whatever. That's a fractal build problem. It has nothing to do with T-Motor. Look at that, yo. That is absolutely full throttle, as hard as I can do it. And it's completely fine. Let's do it to the left. Yep. It's all better. Azalea's awake! Oh, shit! Uh-oh. Azalea was actually awake earlier than I was today, so can't really talk smack. There you go. I'm really tempted to tell you guys to take all your Bluejay stuff down to 0.16. I'm really, really, really tempted. But, I mean, I guess If it hasn't desynced yet, maybe it never will. I think I'm going to take all of my Bluejay stuff down to 1.6. Because I don't want to find out in the worst possible scenario that it was just waiting to desync. You know what I mean? Wow. There you go. So, there's that. Again, this is not me trashing on Bluejay. Bluejay is awesome. It's an open source project. It's free. Stop trashing on things that are free. Don't trash on them, just talk about them, right? Yeah. Newer is not always better. Go figure! Says the 42-year-old. Let me get caught up on chat a little bit. Fire Mike FPV with a 5... Got that one. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna just massacre this. I'm gonna go for Iriabe. I hope that's close. Iriabe with 25 PLNs says, solved many issues with my micros by following your advices. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Very cool of you to say. Thank you for the support. It is beautiful people like you and everybody hanging out that allows me to keep doing this and keep helping you guys out. So thank you very much. Very, very cool of you. Let me scroll up and get caught up on chat because I think that's about all I have to say about Bluejay 0.16, 7, 8, and 9. Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm sure that there are some subtle improvements in 1.7 and 1.8 and 1.9, but I will take, every day of the week, I will take a reliable piece of software over an unreliable piece of software that has subtle improvements. Know what I'm saying? Bluejay 0.16 works fantastic. Put it on yo shit. The other thing that's been kind of weird about Bluejay 0.17, 8, and 9 is that sometimes in the Betaflight motors, motor rotation wizard, when you click start and stop motors, the motors will go full tilt. They'll go full blast, all 4 of them, and you can't turn it off. You have to like unplug it to stop them, which on a tiny whoop is really no big deal. But if you do that on a 3-inch rig and you didn't take your props off, that's going to be a bad fucking day for you. So apparently that maybe has something to do with that PWM dithering feature. So maybe turn that off. I have never seen that behavior in Bluejay 0.16. I give you enough reason. Did I give you enough reasons to go back to 1.6 yet? That's a scary problem. That's happened to me on stream 3 times. That's a scary problem. Let me get caught up on chat here. Athix says Bob is playing with Walksnail too. He is indeed, which is awesome. Oh man, I'm hold on. I'm way backed up. No. Here we go. I'm not that backed up. Freelojo says your tooth fairy is missing a footy. It is. It is. That's the arm that I had to replace because the motor blew up on it. That's this one. Yeah, this arm I had to replace because I was... we talked about it on last stream. I won't dive into it. But yeah, I had to replace this arm, and I forgot to put the foam on it. Luckily, I only put this up in the air for a couple of batteries to get them some B-roll. Brandon's Baked Bean says, do you think that maybe the CPU load was causing desyncs? I don't know if we discussed that as a possibility when using dynamic idle and Bluejay. I do recall the F7 being kind of high at 8K. I don't think that was the issue. In my experience, high overloading the CPU has other effects. Like the first thing that I'll notice is the OSD will start to get a little bit weird. Yeah, I've had CPU load problems before, and they've never resulted in a full-blown desync. So yeah, I don't think that's the issue. Also, you know, we're starting to see this problem in now 3 different rigs, maybe more. I'll bet you these things were having that problem too. And I think I saw in chat a couple people when I had this dropping out of the air say like, shit, I've been having that same problem. So I hope now that I'm talking about this and I put a kind of clickbaity title to this stream, I'm hoping that more people dig into this and find this problem. And if nothing else, we can get a little bit of a list going with which electronics that it affects. Although, to be really honest, I think maybe we should just all go back to Bluejay 0.16 because it works great. And I just don't see anything amazing about 1, 7, 8, and 9 that would give me any reason to run them. So, yeah. It's a good thought, though, Brandon. Kevin Sumner says, the letters and numbers refer to the processor and the FET timing, how quickly it can switch on and off without blowing up. Thank you for that reminder. I remember reading that like 2 years ago when I was for some reason digging into ESC stuff, but I completely forgot the timing, the FET timing. It's really important to get those letters and numbers correct. If you get the letters wrong, it just won't work because you're telling it that it's a different processor than it actually is. If you get the number wrong, it'll actually still work. It'll just act funny. So yeah, thank you for that reminder, Kevin. I remembered that. I remember now, having read that forever ago about the FET timing. Very cool. CMAX says variable PWM is in the dev build of 0.19. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. I hope to help. Man, variable PWM is really, really, really nice. So I hope that they figure out whatever the hell is causing these desyncs, and put out 0.20, I guess would be the next version, right? With variable PWM and reliability, basically. The ability for it to not desync all over the damn place. This is now 3 separate ESCs, AIOs, that are doing this, possibly 4 and 5, from just me, right? Just here. God only knows how many more this is affecting. And I think this has gone unnoticed because this behavior we've commonly blamed on hardware, because this is what happens. Like when this on BL-Heli 32 ESCs, when one of your FETs starts to get weak, we get this exact same behavior when we push the rig really hard and one of the channels can't deal with that load, and the FET just like kind of gives up or whatever, and it'll drop an arm and it'll do a desync. Typically, I think this is totally just this could be wrong, but I think when it's a hardware problem, it'll desync and fall all the way. It'll just death roll all the way into the ground. It won't recover. When it's software side, it's just a quick desync. Like as you guys saw it, well, I guess it did spiral into the ground, but on the AOS Cinna, it was a quick desync, and I was able to catch it before it hit the ground. Thank God, because if it had hit the ground, I would have broken even more of these outer weak whoop duct or hoop carbon pieces. So yeah, that might be true. That might be true. That when it's a hardware problem, it desyncs and it's just kind of unrecoverable. Whereas if it's a software desync, I guess we could call it, it's quicker and you have more of a chance to catch it. In the basement here, I just, it's 3 feet off the ground and it starts and it's just into the dirt. When I was testing the AOS, I was like 6 feet up in the air and it would do it, and it would recover, and I would just right off the ground. Like, Jesus. I got it to do it like 3 times and I was like, nope, no more. Like I can't break another one of these frames. So yeah. Ram Donko says, bouncing on no throttle. CiottiFPV, it's a 75X on Bluejay 48. Is air mode dialed too high an issue? What do you mean by air mode dialed too high? Air mode is not adjustable. Air mode is either on or off. if you're talking about on the ground, yeah, it's gonna bounce. That's air mode working. Basically, like, if a rig is on the ground and like anything affects it, the PID loop is gonna try to make a correction, and the PID loop makes its corrections with thrust. So it's gonna add thrust to make that correction, and then it's gonna bounce down again, and it's gonna see the error again, and it's gonna make thrust to fix that error. So they'll just sit there and they'll bounce. That's the PID loop working, right? Like, if you turn your PID loop off, it won't do that. But don't do that. So yeah, bouncing on the ground at 0 throttle is totally normal. There's really nothing to get around that. I mean, I guess technically you could drop your PIDs really low, but then the rig would fly like ass, so don't do that either. C-Max is radio off. Thank you, dude. Fire Mike, thanks again for the super chat. 661 says, what whoop AIO is that? We talked about that. Kiz Bartlett says, had this issue recently with my X12 AIO. Couldn't understand why it was shitting the bed, but I'm guessing this will hopefully fix it. I hope so. If it does, Kiz, please let us know. Brandon Bean says, or lower even. Oh, I wonder what we were talking about. Oh, I think we were maybe talking about the ramp up settings in the ESC configuration. 661 says, what? I always run high timing on almost everything I have. It makes way more RPM. High timing makes RPM is typically just based on the motor KV. The timing shouldn't give you way more RPM. That's interesting. I've tried playing around with timing before, and I've not seen a difference at all. Interesting. Let's do this. Let's go to low timing, and then we'll go all the way up to high time. What time is it? 4:45. We didn't talk about. I guess we talked. I mean, do you guys want to know anything more about the Aniston gig? I flew live. It was free to watch. It's still free to watch. Here's the link to it. There's a link to Aniston in chat. If you have any questions about what I was flying, how I was flying, what I was doing, let me know. I'm intrigued though about the timing thing. So I'm hooking this rig up here. We're gonna go to 0 degree timing. We'll just do. We'll just be as drastic as we can be, right? So we're gonna do low motor timing, 0 degrees. We're gonna disconnect, and let's put this battery in, and take a look. If it makes a big difference, I'll definitely be able to tell. Come on, get in there. So I'm gonna do just like a bench test, because RPM you can always tell by just sound, by just listening. So I'm just going to hold this in my hands and just ramp the throttle up to full. And we'll just listen for the pitch, and then I'm going to change the timing to high, and we'll see if the pitch is higher. So here we go. And I'm just going to hold it here. So just listen. I was just listening. Hold on. I'm going to hold it up here. So, like, all right, you heard that? So now let's go to high timing, and we'll see if that pitch changes. Okay. A lot of FPV is placebo. I mean, a lot of life is placebo. So yeah, and it's hard. It's hard to. Placebo is a real thing, man. Do if you don't know a lot about it, do some reading on placebo. It's super interesting. It's unbelievable how many illnesses have been cured with sugar pills. Yeah, the brain is a powerful, powerful, powerful thing. So now we're gonna go all the way up to 30 degrees, and we're gonna write settings. And all right, cool. Let's disconnect. And I technically don't need to put the battery in the bay, but God forbid without the battery in the bay, there's some weird difference in aerodynamics. I'll put the battery in the bay. All right, here we go. So that was like, we want to hear a higher pitch here. All right. Hold it in the same spot. Come on. Come on. Same. Do it again. Hold on. Yeah, sounds the same to me. There could be a difference. There could be a little difference. I've talked to Ryan Harrell at length about ESC settings. And the long and short of it is that Ryan has basically said that the factory settings are like really what you want to run. Chris Rosser has also done some testing on ESC settings, and his findings were kind of the same. That like the stock settings, like if you go down from the stock settings, you lose some performance. But if you go up from the stock settings, you don't really gain any performance. Which is why I've always left like the stock settings stock. I know Bob Rugi, Kebab of FPV Cycle, came out with some videos and info last year, a year before maybe, where on the older toothpicks with the really electrically noisy AIOs, he saw some performance increases not using much data, just like flight feel, to changing ESC settings. A lot of those findings were kind of debunked by Chris Rosser's actual data-driven testing. And that was a very specific fringe case. It was toothpicks with ugly-ass AIOs, really floppy frames, right? So, yeah. I know that series of videos and that series of info kicked off a bunch of nonsense in the ESC world. Not the ESC world, in the FPV world, with like, oh, you know, you have to do this, you have to do that with your ESC settings. And I remember trying some of them and being like, yeah, there's no difference. like when you get the placebo out of there, there's really no difference. Could there be a subtle difference? Absolutely. But it's, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's hard to, yeah, I don't know. Not saying 661's wrong, but I mean, we just went from completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and we couldn't hear a difference. I mean, you know, being able to hear a difference. Here's the thing. So the way that we can tell differences in power are with our ears and with our eyeballs. And in my experience, our ears are much better at telling that than our eyeballs, because our eyeballs are in the goggles, and when you change the throttle value, not much changes in the goggles. Like, it is the least obvious axis. The roll axis, as soon as you push that stick over, all hell breaks loose. The pitch axis, all hell like, your vision of what's happening changes immediately and drastically. Whereas with the throttle, if you're 5 feet off the ground and you blast the throttle really quick, you almost see nothing, because it has to move the entire weight of the rig, and like just your perspective on the world just changes a little bit, right? Like the horizon kind of stays in the same place. Like, sure, if you fly it up against a wall and you're looking straight at a wall, sitting really close to it, sure, you're gonna see a drastic change. But our vision is the worst to me, in my opinion, the worst indicator of what's differences in power. I always can tell a difference in power with my ears by the pitch that the motors wind up, like spin up to at full throttle, as well as how quickly they spin up when you stab the throttle. So yeah, I always kind of trust my ears. I started playing drums at the age of 9. I got many years of private lessons, thanks to my amazing parents, with an amazing jazz drummer named Tony Di Nicola, who toured all over the world and is like very well known in that community. And so like I've been into music and audio in general for like, 30 plus years. So I'm not just some jackass off the street that's tone deaf. Like I can typically hear you know, if somebody's a half a step off. It drives me crazy. So yeah, there's that. But I could totally be wrong. I commonly am, and that's okay. But I did not hear a difference going extreme from low to high. So I'm going to leave my rigs on that medium to medium high timing, which is the default setting. Irabe, thanks again for the super chat. Brandon Woodford says Bluejay 0.16 for the win. Indeed. Michael D says, do you think Bluejay 0.16 would help the BLV4 2S? Well, were we able to get that? Man, that's a great question. Were we able to get that onto? Weren't we not able to get that on the Bluejay? Oh, man, I just ripped that tiny lifter apart to put the BLV3 back in it. I don't think I have it in me to do it again, to pull it apart again and put BLV4 back into it. Hold on. Oh, God. Why is testing shit like this so much work? Let's take a look. This is a BLV4. Let's see what version it's on. I think this is the BLV4 that I've been doing stuff with. So my answer to your question is, I hope the hell not. Just because I don't want to rip that rig apart again. Oh no, I do have it on Bluejay 0.19. Oh god. Fuck you for asking that question, Michael Z. Oh man, the problems that I was having were totally different than any of the problems that I've seen with these. So I'm having a real hard time justifying putting the time in to test that theory. Right? Like, if that rig was falling out of the sky, it'd be a whole different story. And I'd be saying, like, hey, this Whoop Wednesday, I'm going to rip apart the fucking tiny lifter again and try BLV4 again. But, yeah, that's not the case. Somebody said fly more, so I charged a couple batteries, I'll fly. I just put this thing back together. I don't even know what it is. I was just building. I just had a rig that like wasn't finished the other day. I was like, let me just finish. Let me just put this together. But maybe the actual answer to your question is maybe, right? Because I don't know. It did seem to be an ESC problem, right? Like we talked about that. We talked about how like my best guess was that it was ESC related. So it very well could be. And with the reason that I'm super annoyed right now is with how generous Newbie Drone has been with me over the last this year, basically. I feel like I kind of owe it to them to test that. So I very well might. What I think I'll do, though, is I'll take the other tiny lifter apart this time. Because I'm tired of taking the main one apart. So, yeah. At some point here, I will more than likely rip apart the all black tiny lifter to test that. You bastard, you. It's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. I wouldn't have... I might have thought to try that eventually. But if it hadn't happened on stream, I would have been like, nope, not doing it. I'll say this though, I bet you it doesn't help. I'll bet that's not the problem. Man, it could be though. Because I bet you it is. Just like that. He changes his mind. I bet you it has something to do with it, because I'll bet you... Hey, is anybody looking to build a tiny lifter that can't find a BLV3 in stock? Because they aren't in stock anywhere. How would you like to test that? So I don't have to again. The reason now why I'm thinking it might have something to do with it is it was related to high throttle and high power. And that's what we're seeing. When we ask for a lot, it's falling on its face. And boy, oh boy, are we asking for a lot from those, from the tiny lifters. You know what I mean? We're asking them to put a bunch of power down. So yeah, there's a decent chance that might be it. I don't even know if this will fly. I don't even know if the camera is right side up. Let's see. The camera's upside down. Kill myself. Boy, is that annoying. But it's just a little McStinky mount here. So I might just be able to push this camera out of the mount and flip it upside down. Look at that! For the first time ever, I didn't have to completely tear the thing apart to fix the issue. Oh, and hey, I figured out a cool little thing with the McStinky mounts that I'm going to show you here. McStinky mounts are available. If you buy a sticker from me, I'll ship you a McStinky mount. They seem to be the racer's #1 choice in lightweight, 3D printable, durable camera mounts for tiny whoops. I've used them on a bunch of these freestyle rigs, and they work really well. They're really nice little guys. And we had a little 3D printing competition where you guys made a whole bunch of these McStinky mounts and sent them to me. And so, yeah, I'm now throwing them in when you get something from me. Look at this. There's a little hack here. You can use your McStinky mount to hold your antenna. Grab this cam and show you guys. So you can thread your whip antenna down through the little McStinky, and look at that, it holds it. Isn't that cool? It's just threaded down there. You can see it in between the camera lens on the bottom. Isn't that neat? Well, isn't that the special? Isn't that the special? What's that from? That's Mike Myers, isn't it? Maybe. Okay. Now the camera's right side up, but I'll bet you the motors aren't spinning the right direction, so let me really quick get this into Betaflight. We'll get the motor spinning the right direction, and we'll fly this thing around. This would appear to be a Happymodel F4 board with Tiny Whoop 0702 30,000s that I just had floating around. This is the impossible to find OV231 camera. This used to be, and arguably still is, like the best little tiny board analog camera. In a little 25-degree up tilt McStinky mount with a silly little whip antenna. And the frame is a, never mind. All right, let's get these motors spinning in the right direction. And we'll put this thing up in the air and rip it around a little bit. Ha! There you go! That's full throttle. Now look, click. Nothing. 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 Oh, that's good. That's nice. Okay. You can fix that from clicking on this. Okay, let's well, see, it doesn't do that. Hold on. It doesn't do that every time. Reproducing that, I would love to hook it up to ESC configurator, turn off PWM dithering, and see if it fixes it, but watch. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to do it again, and it's going to be fine. It doesn't do it every time, right? So, like, I mean, I guess I'll try it a couple times in a row. Yeah, see, it's not gonna do it again. Yeah, oh well. But hey, that's the problem, and this is on Bluejay 1.9. Motor 1 is wrong. Motor 2 is right. 3 is right. 4 is wrong. Stop motors. Close. Disconnect, and let's just confirm that this is on Bluejay 1.9. Oh, this is on Bluejay 1.16. Okay. Okay. So, all right. Well, that's good. Now we know. Huh. I'm actually shocked that this is on 0.16. Okay. So yeah, maybe it does have to do with PWM dithering. All that being said, as I've been saying forever, never, ever, 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 ever not take your props off with anything other than a 65 mil tiny whoop. 75 mil tiny whoop, don't fuck around. They make enough power to nip you and make you bleed. So don't play that game. If you spin your motors up in Betaflight or in anywhere else, like if you're here it is. If you're plugging battery power into your rig, you need to have the props off, because you just saw the damn thing go full stank-a-lot-of-puss, and if it was anything bigger than this, that would have been bloody. 661 says absolutely very noticeable higher RPM with high timing. Ricardo Ferreira says I just bought a Runcam Thumb Pro for my 1.6 inch. What to change in the tune? Thanks. There's no like easy answer to that, Ricardo. You have to put it on there. You have to fly the rig, and then if it's doing something not desirable, then that is what needs to drive the change in the tune. There's not just like there, and anybody that says that there is doesn't know what they're talking about. There's never just like a blanket thing that you need to do with your tunes when you change X or Y or Z. It's a stock tune, that whatever tune you're on currently, probably will be completely fine. If it's not, tuning changes need to be driven by the problem, not by just, I'm gonna do this thing to the rig. You know what I mean? Like, you got to just put it up in the air and see how it performs, and that's the right way to change things in the tune. 661 says, high timing is mandatory for the first brushless whoops that had 06, 03, 16,000s because the KV was so low. Interesting. I don't know a ton about, like, the tech behind the ESCs and, like, what all of those things do. So yeah, I'm not really gonna speak to it, because yeah, I just try not to talk about things that I don't know, like that I don't have like a locked down knowledge of. But yeah, if you're having a good time with it, awesome. I'm not gonna change it. That medium high has been completely fine for me. And going higher on the timing, what I do know is that going higher in the timing opens you up to more possibilities for desyncs. So if anything, I go down on the timing, because again, like we were talking about before, I would rather have reliable rigs than rigs that have, a couple of % more power. That's just me though, if you guys are different from that, that's fine. That's great. Everybody, we're all snowflakes. But we know who the real snowflakes are. Fire Mike FPV with a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. No comment, just supporting the madness that is trying to do FPV full time. Thank you, dude. Michael D says, I'm sorry. Dude, I'm so sorry for asking. It's all good. It was a great thought. I'm deep down inside, I'm glad that you said it. Kevin Sumner says, at what point do you just buy another set of stuff to build a third tiny lifter instead of ripping another rig apart? I had three. I had three at one point, and I tore one of them down. When I'm heavily testing, I like to have 3 rigs. That's why there's 3 rip squeaks. That's why there's 3 freestyle rigs, and that's why there were 3 tiny lifters. I I did the majority of the testing with the tiny lifters. I figured out which motors I liked the best. I figured out which frames worked and which ones didn't. So yeah, I figured out which battery connectors were the best bet. So yeah, I pulled that third one down and it's fine. The BLV4 has a little bit of an advantage because it's got the built-in ELRS receiver. But the OSD is a hot mess, and you can't run RPM filtering on it. And those two things kind of suck. Like, those are real issues with it. So that makes me way less motivated to kind of try it out, right? Like, those two things would drive me crazy. I'll take a 1 gram weight penalty for proper OSD and RPM filtering. So I might actually not. At some point, I think that they'll fix the OSD problem, and maybe that's when I try it. I will probably forget, so I'll rely on you beautiful people to remind me to see if Bluejay 0.16 helps with the 2S tiny lifter BLV4 issues. But for right now, if I were to do that switch and it did help it and it was flyable, eventually the OSD flickering would drive me as insane, like so insane that I might pull the thing apart anyway. And the fact that it won't do RPM filtering, I'm never going to get the tune as good as the BLV3s. And I would end up pulling it apart anyway. So thank you for the reminder on that, because yeah, I'm not going to do it, because it's just those rigs just, yeah, those two are they're big enough problems that it's like, nope, don't need it. Let's fly around a little bit. Freelo just says, I need to let Newbie know that I'm having binding issues on my BLV4. I didn't put it on Bluejay 1.9. I need an AIO. Binding issues, Jesus. Brandon Woodford says, hey, you see that Newbie Drone's making 702 with bearings 29,000. Yeah, we talked about that on Wednesday's live stream, maybe Friday's live stream. We Bleed FPV Zotek actually popped into the chat and mentioned it, and I was like, oh my god, I didn't know. And I went and looked it up, and yeah, there they were. Pretty cool. Oh god, this battery is fucking dead. I'm gonna put this thing on the charger because that is a little too low of a voltage. Let's fly a beat up battery. What do you say? Yeah, so this is Tiny Whoop 0702 30,000s. The motors that the high KV 702s that have been in stock more often than any of the other ones, and because of that, I put them on Joshua's ultimate shopping list. And then as soon as we record the video breaking down that shopping list, the damn things go out of stock. So I got a bunch of people like, what the fuck, man? Why would you put a motor on there and talk in this video about a motor that's unavailable? And I'm like, well, welcome to FPV. Oh, look how yellow that is. What's happened? This camera is not doing well adjusting white balance. There's an azalea on the couch. What's she doing? What's she doing? What's she watching? What's she watching? Something dirty? Is it Markiplier? No, it's this guy. She likes this guy that plays video games. Ooh, she's looking for something. Let's see what she's gonna find. Corey something or other. Let's see what she's gonna go for. What's she gonna go for? What's she gonna choose? Where's Markiplier? Markiplier's her favorite. But this Corey guy, Corey Kenshin. Markiplier is at least good at video games. This Corey guy is not really good at video games. He just screams a lot. I asked Azalea one day, I said, oh, she went with Markiplier. I'm happy. I asked her one day, when she was watching this other guy, Flamingo, I said, is this guy actually like good at video games, or does he just scream a lot? And in a moment of absolute honesty, she said, yeah, he just screams a lot. And then I managed to beat out of her that he's cute too. I was like, okay. Now I get it. This battery... Wow, this camera is having a real tough time with white balance. That's interesting. Most cameras are really good, or really quick with their white balance adjustments. This one is not one of them. Let's put a little bit of a more fresh battery on here. And see how it do. Here we go. Here we go. Expander says, I always use a smoke stopper on the bench with props on, but if I'm going to be spinning motors and plugging the LiPo directly without a smoke stopper, then the props are coming off. That's the way to do it, brother. That is the way. Yeah, I love that Newbie Drone is doing 702s, man. Another 702 option is... is a good thing. Unfortunately, though, I suspect that the Newbie Drone rigs are a little too heavy for 702s. Like the 802 27000s with tri-blades handle the weight of the Acroby. I totally just accidentally went through this gate. That was gnarly. Yeah, the 802s have enough stank to control that weight. The 702s might, because the 702s are lighter. But I have a sneaking suspicion that on the Acroby... on the full weight Acroby, you're better off sticking with the 802 27000s. I could totally be wrong, though. But, how about this? If you're doing a lightweight build... using a Newbie Drone AIO with their proprietary plugs, then those 702 20000s are going to be goddamn brilliant. And you're going to get some bearings, yo. It's amazing. We've got a 702 with bearings. That's rad. So this camera is interesting. It does not... What the fuck? What am I stuck on? What am I stuck on? Like, I know what's over there, and there's nothing that should be... Is it hair on the ground? I'm working really hard to just pull that hair into the props. Yeah, this camera's interesting. I mean, you can't buy this camera, so... Oh, it was stuck, like... It was just angled really funny under the couch. Yeah, it doesn't transition from bright to dark all that quickly. And it has a really rough time with, white balance. Oh! Ooh! Oh! Oh, hold on. Oh! Ooh! Ooh! Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, God. It's, I think, you guys see what I'm trying to do, right? Okay, good. Let's just run into that. I don't think there's enough of a gap in between these two. So I'm trying to bring it here, stall it, and throw it back through the double gem fan gate. Ooh, that's a hot one. Oh, that was close. Maybe not a power loop on the second one. Maybe a little pitch forward jib jab. Let's see. See, now I'm trying to make the power loop really shallow. Let's get a battery on here with some juice. Look how yellow the desk is, and then it adjusts. All the lights in here are daylight balanced, though. It's weird that it's going. I guess the purple and red on that side of the room. It's thinking that those are incandescent for some reason, and it's going to an incandescent white balance. I don't know, it's weird. But like I said, you can't buy this camera anyway, so. This was like Rugi's favorite camera way back in the day for toothpicks. And the camera looks good. Like, it's got good detail. It's got a pretty wide field of view. The big throw. Oh, almost. Oh. I also have to turn it a little bit. See these gates are on this track in the ceiling, but then this gate is in between the aluminum jibby jabbies, so I gotta pull it to the left a little bit. Let's see what we can do here. So angle it. Oh, okay, let's just smash into the wall. That'll work. That's the trick we're trying to do, right? It's the smash into the wall trick. Oh, or I can do that, or I can send it forward a little bit. All right, let's see. Ah! Fuck yeah! What you know about that, motherfuckers? That's cool looking, yo. Oh shit! Ah! Now I can't even get the power loop. Oh, yo, that's a good one. That's a good one. Let's try it with the pitch forward instead of pitch back, if I can remember. Nope. It feels right. It feels right to do it as a double. That's the pitch forward. Oops, I didn't even get it high enough. Oh, so close. That's cool looking, isn't it? You guys like that one? Oh! I just thought of another idea. If I whip the back of that power loop around, I think I can fly backwards through the other gate. Hold on. Here's a. Oh, I'm gonna be stuck, aren't I? It's a little too deep under here to get out. No, we got it. Did I get it? Did I get it? I got it! Oh, God. Oh, no! Eat me, gate. Oh, let's see if this rig falls out of the air, too. Nope. Alright, now this one's on Bluejay 1.6. It's safe. Let's see. So, like, if I whip that around fast enough... see what I mean? I was almost there, but I gave it a little too much throttle, and I pushed it up into the ceiling. I gotta really whip it around to get back on the throttle quick enough, though, because it's trying to drop elevation. Fuck you! Yeah, there it is. 2 new tricks today. Not 1, but 2. Oh fuck. Where did that hit something hard? Oh, over there. Okay. Oh my goodness, that's hot. That was a hot one. Get this battery off. Whee! I might not be the best pilot, but goddamn, I ain't terrible. That's a cool one. DNS Jules with a $5 super chat. He says T-Motor 1S 6 amp AIO CLI dump. DNS Jules also says, hey, can you send that T-Motor 1S CLI dump? That's right. DNS, I think, commented over on the best tiny whoop in the world video that Joshua and I just did. Yes, this is going to have. I do not have a completely stock CLI dump, so this is gonna have like my tune and my changes to the tune and stuff like that. So this is also gonna have. Let's see. This is also gonna have my binding phrase. So I think I remember what DNS said is that they're having a hard time getting a CLI dump from T-Motor for it, and they fucked around with some stuff, and now it's just not working at all. So normally, well, why? Hold on. So that T-Motor. This is the wrong one. This is a Happymodel board. Hold on. Here's the T-Motor. So normally what I would say is to just reinstall the firmware. All right, DNS, check it out. I'm gonna walk you through it. Here's the first thing that you should do. First thing that you should do is hook it up to Betaflight, and you go, instead of connecting, you're gonna go here to update firmware. In update firmware, you're gonna click auto detect right here. And it's gonna auto detect T-Motor F4 SX1280. And then 4.3.2, full chip erase, and that's it. You're gonna click load firmware online. It's gonna load the firmware online. This button is gonna become yellow. You're gonna click this button, and you're gonna flash fresh firmware to it. That should, the fresh firmware includes like all the stuff that the CLI dump has. So that should get you back to stock, and then you put your settings in, and away you go. I'm still gonna give you the CLI dump. I'm gonna put it over on my Discord. You can get to my Discord by going to CiottiFPV.com. Scroll down to the button. There's this kind of Discord button. I'm gonna put it into general nonsense, and I'm gonna do it right now. So just go grab this, just for the sake of having it. But like I said, this is gonna have all of my tuning stuff, and I have a. Do I have an aggressive tune on this? Let's take a look. Yeah, not super aggressive. So I have a sort of aggressive tune. Yours might fly great with this, but yeah, this is gonna have all my stuff. I have a significant amount of stick smoothing added on here to make the footage a little bit smoother. I have very slow rates. You're gonna get all this stuff. You're gonna get a shitload of throttle expo. So definitely try just updating the firmware first. Because that'll wipe this stuff out for you, rather than giving you a whole bunch of my customization that you might not like, and it's going to be all over the damn place, right? Like, my customization is here in the rates. I got specific filters. I got the sliders moved all around. I've got different feed forward settings. I've got so yeah, I mean, but like I said a second ago, my rigs fly great set up this way, so maybe you'll love it. But yeah, so in order to get like the full CLI dump, I don't even remember what it is. Is it get all? No, it's not get all. Oh, that's angle. Is it just dump? Oh, it's just dump. Okay, yeah, so it's just dump. Jesus, that's everything. That really is everything. Good Lord, that's a lot. Okay. So yeah, here, I'm gonna put this over there. But try to update the firmware. This CLI dump is gonna have everything in it that the firmware update is gonna have, but it's also gonna have all of my settings. You know, like my name, the name on the board is gonna come up as Ciotti and shit like that. So try to update the firmware first, because that's just a cleaner way of doing this. But you asked for the dump, you sent me $5. By God, you're gonna get. I'm gonna take a dump for you. It is over in general nonsense. Here you go. And oh, look at that. It puts it as a. Well, that's pretty nice. That's pretty slick. Discord, cool. So there you go. There it is. I guess you would just hit expand. I don't know, maybe you want to download it. I think you want to download it. Yeah, download the message, because it's an absolute assload of text. So yeah, there you go, brother. But I would well, his configuration is jacked up 661, so he doesn't, his current configuration does not work, and he doesn't want it. And yeah, it's, yeah. He got it set up at one point, right? Like when he bought it. So I'm confident that he's able to get it set up again, right? So yeah, I think updating the firmware would be the best sort of option. Let me get caught up on chat here. Jesus, it's 5:25 already. Okay. But hey, Joshua didn't stream today, so I guess I'm covering some of his time for the folks that demand 4 hours of live streams every Sunday. DNS Jules, thank you so much for the super chat. Very cool of you. 661 says, you do really well in iGal. I'm a little surprised you're not participating, but at the same time, I understand it's time consuming. Yeah, it's just the time. I tried to do it the first year that they did it, and I did the first 2 weeks, and then I just don't like editing, and if I'm gonna do editing, it's gonna be on the 4+ years of GoPro footage that I've got just sitting on hard drives. I can't really, I can't justify editing tiny whoop stuff when there's like way higher priority stuff. I still don't have a reel. It's absolutely insane that I don't have a reel. So yeah, iGal is great though. You guys should all do iGal. Don't be like me. Definitely don't be like me. But yeah, you should do iGal. It's awesome. This the tips of these propellers are just getting blown off on these ducts. Weird. And I'm already 661 says, but you're the Micro King. I'm already the Micro King. What do I have to prove, you know? That's the most egotistical thing I've ever said. No questions about the live stream flying rig at Anniston. I don't really know what else to tell you about it. It went really well. Patrick was incredibly helpful. It was windy as hell again. It was like 20-mile-an-hour wind all day. So these little 2.5-inch box frame rigs they did phenomenal. But I mean, with 20 miles an hour of wind, there's only so much you can do. Something I definitely noticed is that the 5 blades on the QAV, which I put on in order to get some power out of these bigger 1504 lower kV motors, these 5 blades were definitely affected more by the wind, which makes sense. There's 2 additional blades, like the wind is coming in like this, and so there's 2 additional blades that wind is going to hit and push. Whereas the fragile little AOS Cinna with tri-blades, you know, the wind comes in, and more often the wind goes in between the blades and just kind of hits the motor and whatnot. So yeah, this thing was definitely better with the wind. This thing was also definitely more efficient. Again, 3 blades versus 5 blades. We'll do that. But flying this thing is very nerve-wracking because of how fragile the frame is, right? Like, every single time I came in to land this thing, it will, like, at Miami Beach where I had this, I would come in to land and I would just like bang it down on the table, just get it down, get the battery off, get another battery on, get back up in the air. Like for these gigs rather, it's all about just staying up in the air as much as possible to give the director as often as I can a shot in you know, one of his 13 different monitors with all the different cameras at the event, to give him a shot that he can take. Like, that is my job at these events, right? I am a cameraman. I'm not a drone pilot. I am a cameraman. I'm a camera operator. And as a camera operator in a live setting, live television, live streaming, the biggest part of your job is doing whatever it takes to have something framed up that is worthwhile for the broadcast, right? And when I'm on the ground changing batteries, or when I'm struggling to land the goddamn thing on the table because I don't want to land it sideways and break the fucking frame, that's, you know, that's not good. But I did manage to not land it sideways enough to bang the frame, or, you know, it didn't desync, it didn't do anything weird and crash. So the frame did survive. But current plan is to order another set of these T-Motor 1404 4600s, put them onto the QAVS, put the exact same propellers on here, the Gemfan 2540s, and do a few batteries on each of these worth of efficiency testing. The way that I do that is in the DJI OSD, you can put your pitch value, and so you accelerate, you calibrate both of the accelerometers, and you go up, and as soon as you can, you go to a set pitch angle. For me, it's usually 30 degrees. So I go up, and I find a spot with a nice big run out, and I go to 30 degrees, and I just keep it at 30 degrees for the entire battery. And just keep it at 30 degrees, keep it at 30 degrees, keep it at 30 degrees. And try not to change your elevation. Like, pick 5 feet off the ground. Just fly it 5 feet off the ground. You don't want to be like increasing elevation, decreasing elevation. Unless you can do that on both rigs, but that's stupid. Just pick an elevation and sit there. Fly the whole battery. As soon as the in the DJI OSD, what I use is the built-in full battery voltage number will go red. As soon as that touches red, I fly it home as quickly as possible. Or actually, what I should start doing, yeah, I guess what I do is mentally I look at the time, the armed time at that point. And yeah, that's my window of like how long that battery lasted. And then I'll fly like another battery or two to get a couple data points. And then I know at 30 degrees up tilt how long this rig flies, and then I'll do the exact same thing with this rig. And take a look at, is this rig with less obstruction out here significantly more efficient than the QAVS with a much stronger but potentially less efficient duct layout, better or worse. For the gig yesterday, this QAV was my 0 up tilt rig. So anytime that they wanted like beauty shots of like the town or the flag or just like of spectators, I would put this thing up in the air. It's also a little bit quieter, not a little bit, it's a lot quieter with the 5 blades. And sometimes when I was getting those crowd shots, I would be near the the announcers with mics. And so it made sense for that, right? Like, I don't want the mic to be picking up fucking because this thing is loud with these tri-blades on it. So yeah, it kind of made sense. The only annoying thing is, like I said, this was getting pushed around a lot by the wind, and it's a windy place. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but you know, try my best to think of challenges as opportunities. The wind pushing on this thing gave me the opportunity to use the wind, right? Like there were scenarios where I could figure out which direction the wind was blowing, and then okay, frame up a shot here where I would flatten out and let the wind push me backwards. And my shot, and so I would figure that out, and I would like sell the shot. When I heard Mark take my camera, I would then let it, like, so I'd be kind of nosed up a little bit, waiting for it, like showing Mark, you know, something good, like a competitor or the crowd or the flag or whatever. And then as soon as he took my shot, I would just really subtly level out, and then that would allow the wind to start pushing me out. And that shot, you know, had some nice motion to it. When your FPV camera is the shot, you don't want to do this a lot, right? Like with a GoPro with Real Steady, you can get away with all this shit and just let Real Steady horizon lock take care of it. But when your FPV view, right, is like the camera that's being sent out into the live stream, you got to try to stay flat, and the wind actually gives you the chance to stay flat but get some motion going on, right? With no wind, when you're flat, you're just stationary. And if you're just stationary, well, fucking have a guy with a static camera do it, right? I mean, if you're 100 feet up, sure, but if you're 100 feet up, you're just looking at the horizon. It's kind of boring. So yeah, wind, try your best to stop getting mad at the wind and realize that it's an opportunity to make some shots that you normally wouldn't be able to, because you can flatten out and let the wind kind of push you around. That being said, it was annoying because there were situations where I did want to just hover it, like when the riders were like being introduced. Like I wanted to like hover it and then have them get introduced and just turn with them and then follow them. But instead the swirling winds were kind of like pushing me around. So you can see my shot is just kind of like moving around a little bit, which just doesn't look professional, right? Like everybody's used to Phantoms and Mavics where they're just locked in place with a camera on a gimbal. So yeah, the wind was again this year a little bit of a pain, but it let me get some really interesting shots on the back stretch. Let me see if I can find one of these as an example for you. On the back stretch there, the wind kind of swirls. So this should be, there we go. So down here, so you can see it there. That was the wind pushing me out. The wind is coming sideways down that street. You see it? So I'm pretty flat. Watch, as soon as I break this building, boom, the wind pushes me over, right? So use it. Use that wind pushing you over to allow you to stay flat and then frame this guy up from the side, right? Like how many cyclist asses do you really want to look at? It's a better shot to kind of get a little bit of an angle. There I am! Whee! Yay! God, I was down low. Jesus. Yay! My little buddy. Hi, little AOS Cine 25, you little jerk. There you can really see the wind pushing me. It was the wind was very turbulent over here, and I was really fighting it. This is a blast though. This is some of the most fun flying I've ever done. Like straight up. It's so challenging. There's a shitload of power lines, yo. Oh my god, the power lines are brutal here. There's a big set right there. I just flew under one. There's the street lights, of course, and then there's a big set of power lines up here. So it's really, really fun. This and like, you know, you're trying to stay flat and you're trying to give them something. You're also trying to like, it's not just beauty shots. Like it's focusing on like the gap. It's like you'll have a rider that'll like break out and he'll break out from the pack. And one of the things that the people that are into cycling, and that's who's watching this, right? What they want to see is what's that gap between the breakout rider and the rest of the peloton. That's the name for the big group, is the peloton. So that's one of the really fun kind of challenges, is like how do I show that gap? Because the static cameras on the corner, you know, well, you can see it here. They don't really, there's a shot right up here. So right, like we get a little bit of an idea. Yeah, that's a pretty good idea of the gap because they're on the downhill, but a lot of times you can't tell from the static cameras how big that gap is. This is not one of the examples of me trying to show that gap. I try to mix it up. Like I'll try to show the gap for a battery, and then I'll try to get some of these fancy in-tight shots for a battery. But yeah, it's an incredible opportunity to like troubleshoot this, and like how do I give camera angles and camera shots that are worth it for the cycling fans, right? It's a very different thing than like music videos where it's just like make it look fancy and grab people's attention. This is like get into the mind of the viewer who is a fan of cycle racing and show them what they want to see. And yeah, it's incredibly fun. It's incredibly fun. But at the same time, give the director a shot that he wants, right? Like that's the end goal is for the director to take your camera as often as possible, because that means you're giving, and you know, the director is in this world. He knows what the viewers want. He's the one that's trying to do the storytelling. So really it's mainly about what he wants. This was a situation here where I just barely got up in the air early enough to get to my corner, and I'd lost these two riders. So this is the only time in the entire broadcast I took this little shortcut, and I was hoping that he wouldn't take my camera, and of course he took my camera on this shortcut. Those two people that I flew over though are on the crew, so they're under our insurance and everything. So I'm like able to fly over those two people. They're photographers on that corner. They were there pretty much all day. There were situations where there were more than those two on that corner, and that is the big reason why I was never taking that shortcut. But yeah, man, the challenges are are fast and furious, and I get a real big kick out of trying to meet those challenges and make some really cool shots happen. Here you can really see, I don't know if it's coming through in the live stream, but I'm getting the shit kicked out of me by the wind here. Does he take my camera early enough? Yes, you can see it. Ready? Watch it push me. I'm lined up straight, and now the wind is just going to kick me off to the left, and now that lets me yaw back to the right. But then these riders come into the middle, so now I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can frame them up on the right. Well, now they go back to the right. I'm like, shit, okay, I'm already over here. Let me just kind of hang out over here, and now you can see the turbulence, just like the wind coming through. I guess maybe banging off that fence or whatever. But yeah, every time I would come down here, the wind was really turbulent. Again, huge shout out to Brandon's Baked Beans for helping me get these things tuned and get as much D-gain into them as possible, because D-gain is the main thing that helps you with windy situations like this. And I'm going to continue to see if I can get these, get even more D-gain, and I think I want to try to get a little bit more P-gain. We were really focused on D-gain. I think I want to start adding some P-gain here as well. Because yeah, I'm still getting kicked around by the wind. There's only so much you can do, though. I mean, we don't have gimbals I don't have the weight to keep this under 250 to put any kind of a gimbal solution on it, so it's always going to get pushed by the wind. What I don't want is the bobble, right? Like, the wind is going to push you no matter what, so you gotta, when you're trying to tune to fight for the wind, you got to be really mindful of, like, the wind is always going to push you. There's nothing you can do for it to not push you sideways, and to some extent up and down. You got to be careful. The up and down is actually going to come from the PID loop react. Some of the up and down is going to come from the PID loop reacting, right? The wind pushes it and drops an arm. Yeah, it's going to break a motor, but we don't have much braking force. It's mainly thrust that the PID loop is going to use, and that thrust is going to make you gain altitude. So as you push the PID loop higher and higher and higher, when the wind hits you, it's actually going to gain more altitude. So there is sort of a sweet spot. Like, the answer is not just hammering the PIDs up as high as they go, especially when it comes to D-gain. This is P-gain. This is where D-gain is really nice. Like, D-gain does a better job with that particular situation than P-gain does. A shitload of P-gain will really have it jumping up quick. Yeah, really, really cool challenge to try to get a rig that'll fight, especially a little thing that's fully guarded to fight the wind. But goddamn, this thing did well. There was serious wind all day at this event. And look, I put the little Insta360 Go holder on it, and I have some Insta360 Go footage that, to be honest, I'm kind of desperate to look at. It's 5:44. Let's go until 6. Let's go until 6. My gig tonight is not until after dark, so I should have plenty of time here. I do need to get some batteries on the charger, but I'm like desperate to look at this Insta360 Go footage. And, you know, I feel bad that Joshua didn't give you guys the 2 hours of live streaming that you might have been expecting today. So, well, I'll cover for my buddy. Joshua is very good to me, very generous person. So yeah. Hey, here's some more. Ooh, I'm getting juiced by the wind on this one. All right, that's hooked up. See how this Insta360 Go footage looks in a second here. I love when the riders come into my frame like that. It's so cool. I think that guy popped a chain. There was only one crash, which was great. D-gain. D's nuts. Our 12-year-old is obsessed at the moment with saying D's nuts. It's very strange. I'm sure it's just a phase. Ramdago says, UAV forecast. I found this weather app, weather flying app last night. Seems cool. CiottiFPV and all. UAV forecast, it's called. That's pretty slick. That is pretty effing cool. Insta360 Go. Let's get the software fired up. and then we will just drag and drop later. Let's go to camera 1. Oh boy, there's a fuckload of files on here. Let's try this last one. This should be 120 frames. Let's see if this has got anything. Hey, we got some stuff. Very cool. So I have it set to flat color. Oh, this is a high. I flew a couple of high elevation batteries for them to really try to show the gap in the Peloton. So here, this is cool. You'll actually get to see. Yeah. This is great. Hold on. Let's do this with not the 120 frame footage. So I want to show you guys what is it? Like, what do I do at these events? You've only ever gotten to see the shots of mine that they take where I'm already like kind of lined up and diving in. But let me show you what the full. Yeah, like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, what's my flight path? What's my this? What's my that? Let's put this in the 16 by 9. There's Patrick, being the best visual observer ever. Full screen this mother. Here we go. And changing batteries here. All right, so here's where here's where we were set up. We're like right behind the TV truck, and we are like halfway. So this is that run that you were just looking at, and we are like halfway through the run. Yeah, let's just let it go. You'll see. So, oh, okay, I didn't take my little shortcut. Sometimes I would do this. If I thought the riders might come through here, I would go this way. So yeah, I knew that the riders were coming around the corner. Oh, is this the pre? Yeah, they're not even, this is just warm-up stuff. All right, so hold on. This is them just kind of warming up. This is stupid. Hold on. Let me find one where it's the actual race. And 16 by 9. And now let's turn on. Okay, flow state is on. So this should be pretty cool looking. And all right. Yeah, here we go. So here's my little shortcut. This is my little shortcut that I would typically use to get over to where like my favorite little starting point was. It's going to be a little bit low frame rate just because it's pulling off of the Insta360 Go. So this is my little shortcut to kind of go in through here. Just a nice little straight line. And then this is where I pick them up. So the first thing I look for is the Mustang. He clears the road to make sure there's no pedestrians. This is me just looking both ways. There goes the motorcycle, who is the safety officer. And now I just wait. Now I know the pack is coming. I look left and right to make sure nobody's walking because I don't want them to step on the rig. I land it and disarm it to save as much battery. We've got a rider that's broken out from the pack. I think this is the female race. Pick them up right around now. A lot of times they'll take my camera. My God, this looks cool with horizon leveling on. And then just chase them down. And now this is my run here. That was turn 2 that we just went through. Street lights and power lines. Here's the big group of power lines. This group of power lines is a pain in the ass because by this point, the riders are downhill and they're hauling ass. There's a whole bunch more power lines here, and I'm really working to catch them. This is a female rider probably early in their heat, so they're not really charging super fast. Follow them all the way down, pick them up on this corner, and now right around here, they'll take the camera on turn 4, and I can chill. Sometimes I would try to frame up the rest of the Peloton, but usually they're off of my camera by now. Fly home, not over the racetrack. God forbid it falls out of the air. I want it to fall out of the air, not on the racing line. And this is just my shortcut to kind of come home. And now on the way home, I am limping. I'm staring at the amp rating, using as few amps as possible to get as much battery life as I possibly can. It's a mix though, and this is us. This is Patrick and I right in that little red tent there. It's a mix. I got to make sure I can get back here before the cyclist. You see, there goes the Mustang up there already, and now here comes the motorcycle. Ideally, I want to try to get up here as they're coming back around. Although, I don't know. I want to do some testing to see if it's faster to fly a little bit quicker. Check both ways, make sure I don't get stepped on. I'm wondering if it's better to fly home and disarm it for a second versus get there in the exact right amount of time and then pick them up and rinse and repeat. Pick them back up, chase them back down. try to do something a little bit different each time. You can see the gap from that lead rider to the peloton is now closed back up. So now I have a completely different shot. Now I can frame a few different people and show some of the strategy going on, show the drafting, show the little hand signals that they're doing. Somebody coming underneath me, they're going to break out. When these guys are, they say on the tire, when they're on a rider's tire in front of them, they use 30% less energy. So when one person breaks out, you always try to capture that, because they're doing, it's not worth it for, like, this is a game of energy conservation. This is an hour-long race. So it's all about trying to save energy. And so when somebody breaks out, it's like, you know, the announcers start talking about it. So you'll capture that breakout, or you'll capture the gap between the breakout and the rest of the pack. And here we go again. My little path back, just limp it, limp it, limp it, limp it. Use as little juice as possible on the way back. This is also where I have to decide, am I going to go for a third run, or am I just going to call it on the second run, get it back and get the battery swapped out? This will be cool. What's this look like? Oh, I hit stop on it. I was gonna say it's interesting to see what happens when I'm doing the battery changes. Hold on, let me see if there's one that's got a battery change in it. As you might be able to tell, there's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot to think about. The wind is nuts here. To be honest, every single one of these events that I've done, the wind has been kind of nutty. So I'm sort of getting used to it. This is an occasion where I just barely got the battery changed before the pack was coming around. So I had to really quick scramble. Don't fly over spectators that aren't on their insurance. Get your ass back on there and try to get that director another shot. Here we go. Probably going to catch up with the lead two. Yep. Whenever there's a couple breakouts, they almost always want to see those breakouts. These are the same two from that previous lap. So you guys just got to see it takes me the exact amount of time to change the battery as it does for them to come back around. It's really hard to not miss a lap when you're changing a battery, but it is possible. I was just never able to get up to the top of the hill. And here we go. Limp it home again. Man, it looks really cool with Horizon Lock. See what kind we got. There comes the moto. The moto, like I said, is the safety officer. He is like the end-all be-all, and he considers what we're doing here with the drones one of the safest things that is going on. Like, there are so many more things that are much more sketchy than what we're doing. What happens with these live streams is that the uneducated viewers of the live streams, when they start to see these drone shots down low like this, they start bitching. What the fuck? The drone is going to crash. You know, I've seen all these drone fails. What are you guys doing? You're going to kill one of these riders. They have no idea that it's a drone that weighs what a softball weighs, that's got fully guarded propellers and is being flown by someone with, you know, almost 7 years into it. So yeah, it's the safety side of this is it's a little challenging. As with all of it, I mean, the reason why you don't see more drone footage of live events like this is that the organizing bodies, I think this is me hurrying home. Usually I would do this high elevation when I wanted to really hammer the throttle and get home fast. Let's see if I land at the tag. I bet you I do. Yep. Yeah, this is me try to get home fast. That was a rider that's on their insurance, so I'm cool flying above them. Yeah. That's me, yeah, and you can see I'm kind of rushing through it to get another battery on there. This might have been the end of the women's race. There's Patrick wrangling batteries. There's the parallel board with the little thingies. I had my main charger. Since I was able to drive to this event, I was able to bring my big charger, which has 2 channels, and then I had my smaller charger there, so we were keeping batteries just one up at 4 amps to keep them charged and just to keep enough batteries. Here comes the Mustang. So yeah, this would have been a close one. Did I only do 1 pass? No, I did 2 passes on this battery. It was the ability to get a third pass was almost specifically dependent upon the wind. And basically when I'm flying back on that little path, I'm just I'm looking up at the top at the amps being pulled to try to just keep them as low as possible, but then I'm then looking down at the per cell voltage. And so coming back, if I was at 3.8 per cell, going for another run. If I was at 3.7 per cell, what I would try to figure out, I would do like little throttle blips, and I would see if it would drop from 3.7 to 3.6. And if it would come down from 3.7 to 3.6, I would bring it home and swap the battery. If it stayed solid at 3.7, I would go for a third pass. Unless there was like something really interesting happening. If there was something really interesting, what I would do is I would fly back up to my spot at 3.7, and I would have Patrick come over the radio and say short pass on the next drone run. And then I would only do a half a pass down, and then he would take off of my camera, and then I would break off halfway down the street and come home and swap the battery out. It's real fun. It's really fucking fun. It's like it's the fact that I get paid to do this. It's just silly. It's really silly. It's if I can figure out a way to do this full time for a living, I'll be the luckiest guy on earth. Like, it's just, oh God, it's just all kind of come together into this. Like being in the TV studio and in the radio studio in college, if I'd had any idea that it would have led to this, I would have worked a lot harder back then. But yeah, man, I'm a super lucky guy. Like the past few years doing this full time has been unlike any struggle I've ever had, really, in recent memory. And it continues to be. Last year was really tough. 2 years ago, I got a whole bunch of gigs, and it was like, wow, this is great. Okay, this is gonna be cool. And then they really dried up. And then last year was scary, and the beginning of this year was scary. But I've done a bunch of these events, and the right people have been like blown away by this, and the problem is budget. Like, these cycling racing events are not the most popular things in the world, and the bulk of their budget has to go to the static cameras. Like, I am extra. FPV is extra. If you're looking to do FPV flying for a job, you need to understand right now, and it needs to be like in the front of your brain, that FPV is extra. It is very rare that FPV is like an essential thing for whatever is being filmed. Static cameras are what people are used to and what people want, and FPV is super cool and super interesting, and like, we look at it and we're like, dude, every set needs this. And I still think that's true, but the first thing to get cut is FPV. I guarantee you that. Unless there's like a very specific shot, unless there's a really important shot that they absolutely have in mind and need, which is very rare, FPV will be the first thing to get cut. What actually happens is FPV is the last phone call that gets made once they've booked everything else out and they have any extra money left over. So yeah, that's tough, man. And there's like a little bit of that that's kind of like demoralizing. Like, well, shit, I'm like the last thing. But welcome to something that's new, I guess, right? Like, and until we have a way of until we have a way of locking the horizon with lightweight rigs that are compliant for FAA rules, this is sort of the way it's going to be. And I'm so fortunate to be one of the very few guys that's doing this, right? Like, this live stream flying thing is super rare right now. But I am like all the way in on it. And like, when I'm at these events, like, I try to make sure I talk to all of the people and like figure out like who they're talking to and where their contacts are and how the hell do I get in front of more people that are involved in these events, the planning, the budgeting of these events, to be with them. Unfortunately, the big problem, like I mentioned a minute ago, is the main organizations. In this case, it's ACC, America Criterium Cup. The Miami event is NCL, National Cycling League. Those main organizations are worried about being sued. So putting a fucking chunk of carbon fiber and lipo in the air seems really sketchy, right? And like everybody's seen all of the drone fails, right? So like most of these organizations are just like, drones? Fuck no. No. It requires people like Brad, who brought me in on these ACC events, who see the potential and are actually willing to spend a couple hours looking into these things to figure out, oh shit, they're really safe and they only weigh 250, you can build them to weigh 250 grams, and like that's not gonna kill anyone, that are then able to, you know, in a position to talk to these organizations and say, look, we need to do this. And that's happening more and more and more, which is awesome, because I need to do this. This is I'm good at it and I love it and it has value, and like live streams are happening more and more and more, so there's a future for it. So yeah, this is my shit. It's 6:02. Let me get caught up on chat and then we're gonna shut this mother down. Monodirton says, just got done watching the Miami Grand Prix, now for some CiottiFPV. You're gonna have to rewind, brother. Sorry. CMYK says, yo dude, what's up, homie? CMYK also says, being an independent contractor freelancer is stressful. It is. Irabi says, how many back and forths do your battery last? 2 or 3. I think once I got 4. But yeah, 2 or 3, depending completely upon how nasty the wind was. The wind fires up the PID loop, and the PID loop will use 100% throttle in tiny little bursts, but it'll use 100% throttle. So like me limping on the throttle goes out the window at that point, and the PID loop was asking for everything and then nothing, and then everything and then nothing, and that just chews the battery. So when I would come down, when I would have a pass or 2 where I was getting kicked around a bunch, I'm like, yep, I'm gonna be coming back in for a battery. But the main thing is when I was on that limp home, I would just be staring at that individual cell battery voltage, looking for 3.7 to become 3.6. But yeah, two passes, sometimes 3, every once in a while 4. Fire Mike FPV says, do you use bidirectional D-shot after flashing Bluejay? Absolutely. Bidirectional D-shot is a big deal. RPM filtering is phenomenal at taking care of the vibrations that come from the motors and the motor bands as they ramp up. If you can use RPM filtering, always use it. It's phenomenal. Think of it this way. RPM filtering was basically designed specifically for quads. All the other filtering are audio filters, and I'm not even kidding. Those are old school audio filters. Notch filters, PT1, this is all old audio stuff. It works really well for quads, but it's an audio filter. It's not a quad filter. RPM filtering is a quad filter. It's specifically designed to track the vibrations that come from the motors as they ramp up and down in speed. So your PID loop, your filtering, knowing how fast the motor is spinning is a really big deal, because at different motor RPMs, there's going to be different vibrations. So that communication of Betaflight knowing what the hell's going on with the ESC is one of the reasons why RPM filtering it works so well, and it's, yeah, it's just the shit. Nani FPV says, with the last comment of the live stream, is 29.7 gram Hdzero Fractal75 dry too thick, getting just over 3 minutes on BT. I mean, if you're getting over 3 minutes, that's great runtime. So, I mean, yeah, I think that's the answer right there. Everybody has different likes and dislikes in terms of all-up weight. So, yeah, I mean, I can't really comment on that. Hdzero is like a 4-ish gram weight penalty. I think 29.7 is doing pretty good. But 3 minutes is like, I worry about all up weight when your runtime is like 1 minute. Over 3 minutes is pretty damn good. So as long as you're okay with the way that it flies, yeah, away you go. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'm not gonna have a voice tomorrow. Tomorrow night's live stream is gonna be. That's my voice. CiottiFPV.com. If you like watching these live streams and want to see me continue, I'm completely crowdfunded. You beautiful people are the only reason why I'm able to sit here and do this for 10-ish hours a week. And yeah, much like PBS, I rely on you. So head on over and throw me a couple bucks, and I'll keep doing this forever. Patreon helps me out the most. Over on CiottiFPV.com, there's the link to the Patreon page. Join it. You'll get a shout out. You'll get my undying love and a whole bunch of other benefits. YouTube playlist with a bunch of cool stuff, sketchy flying that you're gonna dig. Couple of Facebook groups, full Discord access. And if you go to the $5 or up a month tier, you'll actually be entered in some giveaways. And if you win one of the giveaways, it's going to pay for like a whole bunch of months of your membership. So if you're on the $3 tier, take a look at the $5 and $10 and $20 tiers, because yeah, I mean, like with the 5-inch stuff, sometimes it'll be like a $100 thing. So it's like $20 a month. If you win within your first 6 months, and there's not many people on the 5-inch tier, there's like 3 people on that tier. You just got all of those Patreon months for free. Is that chilly enough for you? Thanks, friends. I'm gonna give you a little bit more. I'm gonna give you some of the Insta360 Go footage to play me out. As me playing myself out. What if I put the... I got something cool for you. I'm going to give you 120 frame per second footage in the raw format that comes out of the Insta360 Go. No stabilization, no nothing. This is the only way I can... I don't think the software will let me slow down the playback. And I want to give you some slow motion. Here we go. So I think I can do a slow motion. Oh, this will be cool. This will be cool. Oh, you can even see like a little bit of the ducks. This will be slick. Hold on. All right, so I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna go here, playback. Speed down by 0.5, and I think I can do it again. Speed down by 0.5. So this is 0.25x speed. It's stuttering a little bit. Is this? I thought it was 120 frames per second. Let's speed back up. There you go. That's nice and smooth. All right, this is cool. I'm gonna give you this whole big run. All right, people. Wait, hold on. I gotta get you some music for the little outro here. Let's get something that's bikey. I don't know if this is bikey, but this is what you're getting. Love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow night, 10.
You You are repeat, you repeat, you are